Okay, with the hour being after 7, the quorum will open the meeting. First item is minutes of May 3rd. Anybody have any questions, comments? If not, I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
For a second. Any further discussions? All's in favor?
Aye.
One abstain. I was not here for that meeting, right?
Well, we still got some time. What do you got there?
Do you want me
I can't do that until,
I can never remember a plane to an empty house before.
I know, certainly. Everybody's
I knew
exhausted
Jack
from.
was on the downside of this rock and roll parade. You can't even fill a small room anymore.
alright, do we want one?
These all the same thing?
No, you've got the regular sign. That's the Bible. Excuse me, I'm still on the phone.
Okay. Bubbling Brook Road, they're taking what, Lot B and combining it with map 51?
No, they're splitting it off.
They're splitting it off, okay.
Splitting off this,
That little
little-
piece there.
and who's that going to?
Doesn't say yet.
What piece of this plane?
This is,
51?
Correct.
and that's a house,
I believe
and that's
so.
a house. And this is owned by these people.
Yeah.
I can't use my
Old
glasses.
layout.
I'm screwed up with what's behind it. If I don't have my glasses on.
Hmm.
So this is
They'll
existing.
change nothing on Lot 51
This
here,
is what they're breaking off.
and they're just busting out what was an old access, correct?
That's what it looks like, yeah.
So this access from north is old, or is that existing?
Well, it exists.
But they're not gonna use it?
They're cutting it off.
So is this the new, are they making a new property line?
Be here. It appears they're probably gonna sell it to either the owners on map 5, lot 53, or lot 54, that'd be my guess.
Because they can't do anything here, right?
Correct. It's already a single family, and they only have so much frontage.
And there's no frontage here.
Just, well, it's the old layout, 78 feet.
5,000 square feet to be conveyed from.
You can't add,
51.
this says frontage.
Nope.
So
Definitely not.
51 is.
So all I had to do is cutting off a piece.
He won't know, but they don't know this, so they're just cutting it off.
It'd be nice if these guys put the address rather than this
Give it
map
to
and lot.
someone else.
And what will these people end up with in terms of 78,
Correct.
78,
1.81 acres.
26?
To come out North Street before. This is.
So is this lot increasing? No.
No. All this guy, he owns all this out to here, he's just drawing a line there.
Yep, we're hearing this now,
Like money?
Is it a buildable lot?
that piece, yeah.
No,
I don't see any reason to do it.
not a buildable lot. Am I, not that it matters, but why would they do this? Just out of curiosity.
My only thought is we're going to sell it to one of the abutters on either lot 54 or lot 53.
So this little strip is all we're talking about?
Correct.
Or maybe this is buying this and that.
Yeah, doesn't matter.
Would need the A&R though to do that.
Doesn't matter, but the,
Doesn't seem like it's even worth doing the plan.
he's splitting it off, which will be recorded, but he still owns the whole thing, so it's all under him anyway. So,
He owns 53 and 54 as well, is that what you're
no,
saying?
he,
Oh,
when you own a lot of, if you own both lots,
yeah.
it's considered merged. So, but all he's doing is splitting off. He's probably, like they said, gonna sell at some point. Usually these guys wait till they've got it sold before they do this.
Oh, so he's retaining ownership, he's just making
Yeah.
that a separate,
Yep.
small one.
Is this an acre here?
I don't know. In fact, I'm just making a note that I think when I I'm gonna bring up about, applications and all, and those should be put on the plans, that they're just helpful to have.
Names and
Owners.
addresses, so we know where they are.
Names, addresses, owners, and lot size.
Right. I believe this is an acre.
Everybody see what he's doing? Okay.
Yeah.
Make a motion to endorse.
Second.
I have a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained? All you gotta do is sign the front one.
Sarah has the Mylar.
Oh, yeah, I know.
You're only signing one?
Yeah.
Excellent.
You guys can start.
Get a Sharpie. Thank you.
All right. Okay. The hour being, I'll assign one, the hour being after 7:05. We had a continued 1350 North Street. And they have asked for an extension up through July 31st. So, make a motion to accept.
Second.
Have a second. Discussion, all's in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained?
When are they coming in the next time?
And the next, their schedule, we'll schedule them for June 21st at 7:30. All right, that one's done. We got some for Atlantic Court. Okay, we have a punch list request, I assume, for him to get done.
That's just the updated punch list, there's nothing you need to do with it, it's like I was telling, Joe before the meeting, whenever they do any amount of work, I'll usually tick something off and send a revised list, but it's addressed to this board because you're the ones that requested it, not the applicant, that's why you get it.
Oh, the applicant did request this?
They've been working on their bond release for some time. So every time they do something, I tick the list, I tick it off just so that they get somewhere
Question.
when it's finished.
Question, most of this is diddly stuff and
Yeah.
paperwork, except on the second page, Maggie, I know you have inspection reports. 13, you talked about as-built versus the additional fill
Yeah?
on the underground retention.
What happened was, when John Anderson designed that subdivision back in the 2001-ish era, he had the drainage system at a particular elevation. When the builders of the lots came in, instead of the lot being like this, they built it up. And I just want something in writing, and John, he says verbally everything's fine. I just wanna make sure that the, observations and inspections can still be made with the observation pits being, or observation manholes being a lot deeper than they were shown on the plans. He says they were, but it'd be nice when he gets it to me in writing.
All right, but 14 is something about soil stabilization.
The underground retention system, the pipe comes off the cul-de-sac into the retention field on the front lawn, and they grassed it and they stabilized it all, but when you walk around and look at the back of the hill, they've since loamed it, so we're just waiting for grass to grow. The back of the slope, which is gravel, and every time it rains real hard, it was just gonna erode, until at some point, I was afraid that the slope would erode, so I told them they had to somehow stabilize that slope, and they said they were gonna do that.
Okay, who's the slope on? Is it on private or?
It's on private property, but it's the underground retention system that takes the street drainage. If it was his own underground system, it wouldn't matter as much, because I figured they'd take care of their own. Even though they're responsible, they need to at least start off right.
We're gonna make the fall.
I hope so, I think Larry Stern's hoping so. Basically, it's just waiting on items from John Glosser.
Okay. And the backside, so.
And so on June 30th, I think.
Hmm?
We gave an extension through June 30th.
Yeah, but what happens is they always jam it up, and warrant closes, August 15th or something like that?
They'd have to have their residence hearing
Yeah.
either July or August. They can still do that, that one can still do it, as long as they finish up the few things that are left on that list.
But I think he's been out for a while too, haven't they?
Mm-hmm.
So, unless someone starts to, what do you call it, get, you're not gonna see much action out of it. Alright, so we didn't have anything to do on that. Okay. Pass that back. Alright. 710, okay, with a letter from the Housing Partnership.
Is this the first time we're seeing this letter from Amber Flowers?
I think it was forwarded to everybody at one time, and I never heard back, and then he didn't wanna come in until, I believe, after town meeting. At first he wanted to come before, then he said preferably in June or later. So he wasn't in any hurry. I don't know what his plan, his being Mr. Flowers, I don't know what his.
I think he just wants some collaboration on some of the,
So they wanna renew the, what do you call it, the housing, what's it called?
Plan.
No.
Housing production plan.
Yes, that's it.
what's it called?
Housing production plan, it's set to expire in December of this year. So they're working on having it renewed, and they wanna talk with planning board, so.
This is gonna sound dumb, but what is a housing production plan?
Well, it's required by the state that you produce it, and it's good for 5 years, and it allows you to apply for grants. It is designed to take a community from wherever percentage they are to try to attain the 10% as mandated by the
It's
state.
just about the
It's all about
low
affordable
income and
housings.
affordable?
Correct. And right now, the community's at about 5.5%, if I recall.
Yes.
And the plan will lay out a pathway, if you will, to get to that, and there are certain thresholds along the way. If you meet, then you can have what they call a safe harbor, which prevents from someone coming in with an unfriendly 40B.
Gotcha.
I'm actually working on.
So if you're,
the-
it's basically, you know, if you're working towards it, then they don't.
But you have to actually make, an
Strides.
increase in your housing stock. The housing production plan gives you a path on how to get those increases, but it doesn't give you any
Doesn't guarantee
protection on its own.
You have to actually act.
Right, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, maybe the state might, you know, look at it favorably, that you actually have a housing production plan, which is, some towns don't, like,
When would you like to come in?
Does he wanna do, it seems like he wants to do it during one of our meetings,
to talk, yeah, I think.
to talk.
Yeah, I think they just want to need to try to see if they can coordinate different actions with this board. Some of the things that they want to look at will involve zoning articles. Inclusionary zoning, for instance, is one of the options that they want to look at. Transfer development rights, another option that's on the table. So most of those will require some type of participation of this board for zoning.
That makes sense.
I have also been staffing that meeting. We haven't had many, they just started. But I have been putting together a draft plan for them to look at and work toward, to go out and get a consultant to upgrade the existing plan the town has.
Since they're an appointed board by the selectmen, should they go before the selectmen first and get concurrence with their action plan before they?
I would assume they're fairly autonomous in what they do, as long as they provide something at the end.
I think they're looking for information before they go to an action plan, so that's why they need to talk to the planning board.
Find out where they're at before they can develop a plan, you
Just
know, give us the
to
starting point.
get our input on, you know, their ideas,
Yeah, I'm sure they can ask this board, what are your thoughts on affordable housing? What do you think is a good tool to use outside of obviously unfriendly 40Bs? I'm sure they'll ask what appetite this board has for different options than we just talked about.
Well, I would hope that they would, I mean, their boss, theoretically, their boss, quote unquote, is the board of selectmen.
Correct.
So,
Well, do we have any objection to meeting with them? I don't.
as long as the
Anybody
board of
else?
selectmen is in agreement with anything they're doing, and I remember them being before the board and being encouraged to come back with their ideas. I don't know what the Board of Selectmen's position was on that, but they certainly wanted to hear from any recommendations they had. So that, I think, would have been the first stop before.
Well, maybe they wanna meet with us just for a little collaboration meeting to form those ideas.
That's exactly what they wanna do.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's a good idea.
Yeah,
I
I
think
do
it's
too.
important. We should work together and,
Yeah,
you
they
know, come
wanna
up
know
with
what this-
solutions to the
What-
town's problem.
If anything, that this board has attempted in the past, what this board feels is successful or not. I mean, obviously, I'm very new to the community, I don't know, I don't have the pulse of the community yet, like you folks do, living here in Holland.
I think they just reestablished this
They
group,
did.
didn't they?
Yeah, the
After
group,
a-
yeah, but the
some
current
downtime.
report was written in 2012, 2013. It was certified in 2013.
So it's
And it
not that old.
outlined like seven steps that the town could make to increase its affordable housing.
Okay.
Not many of those
Were acted upon?
recommendations were acted upon. So that's a starting point on what was previously recommended, but also, you know, us as individuals may have
Do we have a
additional.
copy of that report and the reasons why those weren't acted upon? Do we have something?
I think it's available on the town website.
I can send it to you.
The reasons why it's not acted upon,
Well,
that's more of a selectman question,
that-
if you ask me.
That website was, the old website for this committee was basically outdated.
But the plan was certified by the state, so,
It has to be, actually.
yeah, so.
Yeah, so I think it's a good idea to meet, just to get a starting point for them, and the more heads you can get involved in any kind of a plan, certainly cannot hurt, so, as long as we can get a copy of everything that, like, certainly the last plan, so at least we have an idea of, at least I have an idea of what it looks like and what they're looking for, because I have no clue, I've never seen one before, so.
Yeah, I can forward it to the board along with the outline for the 2018 report.
Yeah, perfect.
Do that tomorrow.
Okay. So when do we want to do it? He's asking for any of our dates, right, in June?
Yeah, I'm
No,
pretty
after
busy.
June.
I don't know.
After June?
July?
Yeah, he said,
Said preferably in June or later, so it'd have to be July.
Well, Joe's not gonna be here in July and August. Do we want everyone here?
Well, didn't he, is this an old letter? It says, I see there are meetings 6/7, 6/21, and 7/19. Could you ask the board if any of those work?
That's a newer one, I think.
May 14th. It's the last one.
and I just heard from him again, I think it was yesterday or the day, May 14th I got.
Yeah, he's asking, unless there was something after this, he's asking 6/7, 6/21, or 7/19.
Well, 7/19, it would have to be, but Joe's not
here.
here.
What-
We
And
are just,
The
Yeah.
two June ones are,
there, yeah,
they're full? Yeah.
very much so.
We'll do it the 19th.
Without Joe? Okay.
What if we give them the option of the 19th or September?
Yeah, ask him.
Well, they'll probably want to meet sooner than September because we have to file the report with the state, they have to approve it, and we have to have it done by the calendar year. So my guess is that that would make it difficult to incorporate any thoughts that this board might want to get into that plan.
I'm also,
Not
maybe
impossible, but-
I'm looking at it, my first impressions would be that it would seem to me to be more like a workshop than an actual agenda item for us. Am I wrong? Am I interpreting it wrong?
I think you're right on.
So why would we do it during a meeting? Could we just have a workshop?
During
With
the
them?
meeting?
Well, isn't,
A separate posted workshop?
yeah, like, unless we wanna just go back and forth with ideas in front of everybody else that's here.
I mean, an off night?
An off night, yeah. I mean, I don't wanna speak for everybody else that.
Summer, no, I'm not, you know, we do this enough. And the other thing is, everybody gets into this workshop stuff. All a workshop is you're not taking a vote. You can have it during a meeting. It's not a public hearing, that's all. So if they wanna come, that's why you have them come during that time. You talk to them at that point, so you can reserve time for them.
Joe, do you have strong opinions? You want to be there? during this workshop?
If I get the information, if you can send me the information.
Sure.
And all the action items that were either taken or not taken, and something that says why, you can go ahead and, you know, I'd recommend you go ahead and have your meeting on the 19th, as Jack indicated, and then I can catch up.
Maybe if you wanna just shoot off a 3-page summary of
Handwritten,
your,
tiny letters.
of your thoughts. We could,
Yeah, that'll be very easy.
Jack, would you like a time certain, or just, how do you wanna do that?
Yeah, that way they're already, so say 7:05.
For the full notepad.
That way there's nothing else in front. Alright. 7:05 on July 19th.
Mhm.
Can I,
What?
some past meetings, some applicants have submitted forms, our forms to us, and it seems like everybody has their own version. Some people have versions that look like they go back in time a while with past members of planning board on the header. Some people have 20-some odd pages of a form that really is only 6 pages long. So I would like to recommend to this board that Mr. Higgins maybe come up with some drafts of all new forms that we can put on our website, that we can date, so that everybody is using the same version, that they can download the same version, and we're getting uniform reports in, or forms, and that people are not just willy-nilly making up their own form. It would be sort of like everybody here deciding that they're gonna make up their own IRS 10-4, Form 1040, and send it in with their income tax payment. I don't think that would be very wise, so it's not wise to do it here as well. So if possible,
What form are you talking about, though?
development impact statement,
Like the E,
everything.
the I.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, you know, okay, I understand where you're coming from, Joe, and my opinion is if they're not taking the most current, it should just go, you know, guys, you just don't pull it out. They can just go up on the website, print it off, but a lot of them are just too lazy.
and.
I mean, we've updated, the zoning book is updated, the subdivision control, they should be using the most current.
Well, it's getting.
Even if you date it, Joe.
I will tell you-
Even if you date it, they're
Right.
still gonna go, it's not gonna prevent them from using the old one.
It's getting, from what I see, and we sort of accept it as long as the information is there, but from what I see, some applicants are getting pretty sloppy, and I'll be blunt about it.
Sloppy on unintentional?
I don't know the motive, but I would like to have the
I know the motive
information
when you go like
submitted
this, you stand
uniformly.
outside, they throw you, it's,
I'd be happy to do it, and I think the A&R we just looked at was a perfect example. We're all questioning who owns the lots on each side of that old layout onto the street, and what were the lot sizes, if those weren't there. I mean, that's just basic information. It's not gonna cost the applicant any more money to put that on, because they're gonna be looking it up anyway. But I can't sit here this evening and say that A&R form requires them to do that, but I think it should.
And I think Tim can just draft the forms, and we can look at it at a meeting, and then take it home and look at it and see if we have any input, and maybe vote on it then, if we all are in agreement.
I would be, I would be in favor of that, and also maybe removing the gender references to some of the forms, to gentlemen and stuff. Doesn't that
Say
one
that
have?
again?
Don't some of those forms say, like, dear gentleman?
I've never seen that, have you?
In the old subdivision control bylaw that the state put out, they certainly did.
Yeah.
The state, but not us.
No, not us.
There was some.
Really?
It may be, but I know the state did that a while back.
Well, maybe an
Well, while you're
applicant,
looking.
maybe an applicant used their own form.
Maybe, yeah.
I think every form should be dated at the bottom, and if they usually come into our office in advance to review, especially the A&Rs, and one of the first things we do, look at it and say, no, that's the wrong form.
Well, then, if you're gonna do that, because I just made my piece, because they're still gonna take what they want, then we have to be, I'll be more than happy, if you don't put it on this form, and ain't this the right date, you're done.
Exactly.
Done. Don't wanna hear it, you're automatically out of here.
It really shouldn't even get to this point.
I know.
It should, at the time of submission, if they don't give the right form, it shouldn't even be clocked in.
No, well, one of the things town council has said is you have to take whatever they give.
That's right.
It's not up to us to differentiate, it's up to the applicant to make sure he's got everything.
That is correct. You
It
do
is.
have to accept the application, then you can actually turn around and
The only thing you
reject
can
it.
boot them on is the money. They don't have the cash.
Which I also think the fees are very low in this community. I'm
Yeah.
not saying that they,
That's the other thing.
I don't think that they should be extremely high, but they're much too low compared to other communities. I would also advise that, especially the time, I know myself and Maggie put a lot of time now into these reviews, and the application fees should be more reasonable and reflect the time that staff is putting into them.
Well, site plan was done purposely, that's the way everybody wanted it, including the selectmen. And that's why it's cheap. I know it's cheap, I'm not, subdivisions, that's up there, but we wanted to track business, I guess, is what it is. And I think that's the lowest one, right? You see?
It's extremely low, but
Yeah.
I can assure you that the business people are not gonna come if the fees are a little bit higher.
Mm.
Well, you could look at just the surrounding towns and see what they charge.
Jack, we had a letter come in today from Wall Street Development. It didn't come in till this morning. I put a copy in your folders, and everybody can review that.
Yeah, that's not covered by the open meeting law
No,
because
so we
it's the
can't
10
discuss it.
days, because you have to do it. All right, as well as.
But just so you know, it's there.
So anybody has any emails regarding Mr. Petruzzi and Wall Street?
That's been requested twice.
Yeah,
You know,
it's just a big, it's just being a
we
bully.
were all hanging on. Jim had this request, and he sent out a notification telling everybody to hang on and that he would get back to us, and he never got back to us. And I went back to him and said, "Are you coming back to us? What do you want us to do?" And he never got back to us. You know, I don't think I have anything anyhow.
So all you gotta say, just send it
It's not
in.
on the agenda.
What?
It's not on the agenda.
This isn't on the agenda?
No,
No, but it's a 10-day window.
right, but I'm saying, I think what they're saying is they didn't receive it from the last request.
Oh, well, that's, so, it's just Petruzzi being Petruzzi, just being a bully. Don't know what this proves, but, hi Lou,
Plus,
bring that one to court too. No, I don't play around with it.
plus the way I operate anyhow is, and you'll see it in the package, if I get a email from a citizen for or against a particular application, I don't know if it's gone to the rest of you. So I forward it to Kate, so it now becomes a record of the town. I don't need to save that anymore, as far as I'm concerned. It's now in the record system of the town of Walpole, and then she distributes to you, so it's part of the open record.
But if someone sends you private, it has nothing to do with this, it's you're not violating, it's a private, no different than they talk to you downtown, Joe. To me, I just keep those, and they just stay home, I mean, it has nothing to do, all he's looking for is any email correspondence between members on his Burns Ave. So moving along, 7:25, we have a continued public hearing, 1327 Main Street.
Does it,
There was no revisions, correct?
yeah, this was received, these are revised that came in, it's on that letter, that top letter, right there, Jack, what's the date? Yeah.
Okay. We'll open up the continued public hearing,
Everybody else.
and I will get right to it for the comments.
We have some more.
Board of Health, April 19th meeting I'm sorry, April 19th and April 17th meetings voted unanimously. They would like to request the dumpster and trash, that the dumpster have both trash and recycling capabilities, and then a crosswalk with proper signage is imperative to maintain a safe area. Next one is Board of Appeals. At the meeting May 2nd, a special permit was granted for the above referenced project. Sewer and Water, May 15th. The commissioners don't meet again until June 11th, therefore any comments will not be available. Time marches on, unfortunately. Fire Department reviewed the application, and the only comment this time is response to number 7, that the Fire Department has not received a request pertaining, information pertaining an addressing scheme. What's that, Dan?
So they have decided that there'll be 2 street addresses for the 2 tenants. E911 responded.
Oh, okay. Oh, so that's E911. Okay. And, Maggie, go ahead, this is your latest, April 24th, Maggie?
That's correct. There's just 3 items left that could be conditions of approval. A condition of approval requiring, although it has to be obtained anyway, driveway access permission on Main Street has to come from Mass DOT. The issue about approaching the fire department / E911 about the address, and utility as-bills.
Okay, that's it. That's all the comments I had. All right. Mr. American?
Good evening. Just made a series of minor changes and adjustments based on the comments we had received, some of the conversations we had at the last meeting. We added some notes about signs, we added some sign details, we tweaked the drainage design a little bit, and added a trench drain across the mouth of each driveway entrance, just to make sure all the runoff got into our drainage system. Based on the conversation we had about trees, I took out 2 of the trees in the front, left 2 on the side, and replaced them with landscape islands. And that's about it, really. The zoning board voted to issue the special permit for the drive-up door / window for the dry cleaners. Other than that,
As drawn.
as drawn. Pretty much squared away.
Okay. You all set, Dan?
Yes.
Joe? Start over there.
I was down there. I can understand totally why you drew it the way you did with the entrance and the exit. It makes a lot more sense once you've seen a lot of the traffic. That was a good job. One of the items that was mentioned by one of the neighbors was, and was discussed at our last hearing, was limitation on lighting, maybe to coincide with the work hours or the
Business hours?
Business hours. You've got 6 lights in the front and 4 in the back. How are they gonna be, and they're all facing downward, so they're not facing any of the neighbors?
No, they're all downward facing, full cutoff, dark sky fixtures.
So none of the lighting will protrude outside of the property?
Just at the driveway entrance, there's a little bit of lighting out into Main Street, but that's facing Cumberland Farms.
Do you need any additional lighting in the back, especially at the dumpster site?
I don't think so.
All right. And what about cars cutting through to avoid the intersection? Is that like sometimes at Norfolk Street looked like
But
it
you
was,
can't,
when I was watching
you
it,
can't
it was-
control that, but it's possible. But I think, with the building there, and parking spaces through there, I don't think you're gonna see very much of that going on.
Dan, you do a good job. You have very nice plans and very complete, and I like the way that you come in here day 1 on the first hearing, and everything seems to be satisfied by the second hearing. That's, I think you do a very nice job that way. You do a very good service to your client. I would hope that you're gonna ask to close tonight.
I am. Thank you.
Thank you.
Kate?
And I can actually read them because they're nice and dark, so. I think it's a great improvement for the area, I really do. I would have loved to have seen more parking, but it's not, I can see that it's not possible. And you've met the requirement, so I think I'm fine with that. I'm glad to see the driveway entrance was reduced. I think that'll help people trying to sneak in and out. So I don't have any issues.
All set?
Yep.
Mark?
I just have a couple of comments. When you were in last, we had talked about trying to, well, I had asked you about the left turn out
Yes,
onto 1A.
yep.
And, excuse me if I don't remember how we left it, but that would require an exit out of the Norfolk Street side as well, so you could take a left turn at that intersection. Was that looked at again? And I didn't, like, request that you do it absolutely. I was just curious if that plan was looked at. It's funny, I go to Cumbies a lot, as you can see, and since you were in, I always make it a point at certain times of day to glance over there and see what that traffic looks like. Was that looked at all, about restricting left turns out of the parking lot and letting them come out Norfolk Street instead?
Well, we have one-way circulation.
Right.
So the only way you can really do that is to, do two-way circulation the whole way through, and it just ends up with a lot more pavement and a much less efficient site and smaller building.
You'd have to lose some of the building.
You
right,
have to
yeah.
lose some of the
Okay.
building, yeah.
Yeah, again, it is what it is, people will adapt and do what they need to do, so.
Just given
I
the
wouldn't-
location, we felt that this was kind of the best situation.
Yeah, and I don't disagree, given you want to also maximize the building as well, so no problems there. The second thing is, didn't we discuss a specific type of crosswalk light there, or no? Was that?
No, not that I'm
We
aware of.
didn't, is there a crosswalk near that?
Well, there's a crosswalk that goes across Main Street and a crosswalk that goes across Norfolk.
The Main Street crosswalk, because now you're gonna have, it's not gonna be huge traffic, but it will be something that people aren't used to seeing there.
Well, it's there already.
Yeah, but it's not actively being used. I'm talking about the driveway exit. I would like to see one of the, a crosswalk light that's activated, that, the solar-powered ones that actually let people know that someone's waiting in that crosswalk, because now you're gonna have traffic that people aren't used to coming from all directions right there. Again, it's gonna be one or two cars, if that, an hour. It's just an added thing, and I think that crosswalk is gonna become more and more of a nightmare as we go. I know it was not part of the plan, I'm bringing it up out of nowhere,
Well,
but
this is a DOT-controlled road, so I'm not sure
you don't even have any authority to do
know
that?
that I can do that.
All right.
Yeah, they dictate the signalization of the street and the signage on the street, and they're in charge of all that.
All right, other than that, I like the project itself, I know a lot of people use that crosswalk to get to Cumbies, and having cars from every direction is tough, so, but I will look at other avenues for that, but I appreciate it.
So just wanted to ask, is there any update on the second tenant?
No.
So, no.
I imagine, once you build it, they will come. As soon as they start construction, they'll put up a for lease sign on one of those spaces and start to market it.
Okay. Okay, yeah, I have no problem with it. I second Joe. I like the plans. First time I looked at it, everything was there, so I appreciate that. And I concur with, Maggie's suggestions. So that's it. Thank you.
Does the gentleman that is building this, does he own the building that he's currently in now, or is he a tenant?
No. Joe LaRusso owns that building.
Joe LaRusso, okay.
All
Great.
set?
Yeah.
All right, I don't see any issues. It's the way you wanna do it, come in off Norfolk Street. Many years ago, when I used to go back to home improvement, that's the way you went in. I understand taking a left, nobody's coming out like a Dunkin' Donuts in the morning, so if you can
Right.
make it to Walpole and Dunkin' Donuts in the morning, you'd be able to do this, no sweat, so. what exacerbates these guys, not so much Cumberland's, but Dunkies, but the other thing is what exacerbates it is across the street with Cumberland Farms. But once again, we want business, business wants
Right.
traffic, but traffic we don't want. We just keep going around and
I
around.
just don't want the traffic running into each
Vicious
other.
circle.
That's-
Well, it's, yeah, so, I don't have any issues with it either, Dan. Joe gave you a great, I've taught you well, haven't I? Do I get a yes or no?
I'm supposed to say yes.
Oh, but you took Joe's, like, you're gonna take that to the bank. All right, I'll make a motion to close.
Second.
Discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve site plan for, make sure I get it right, 1327 Main Street. Have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, and the special conditions.
Before you get into that, Mr. Chairman,
What?
He's asking to waive the traffic impact assessment and to waive the fiscal impact assessment as well.
You wanna make that as a motion?
You wanna do it? I'll second.
All right, I'll make a motion for those waivers to be accepted.
Second.
Discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, I don't think there's anything special there. I know everybody knows they gotta go in front of the state, and they've already on the E911, and, the only one, we need to put on the utility swing ties and all that, Maggie?
Yeah, it's close as they can come.
Okay. The other one, fire department's already taken care of, so they are in there.
I believe I have an email from E911, we just have to make sure that that's copacetic with the rest of the fire department, that's all.
They have to get in front of the DOT, so that's not an issue, so we'll make a motion for the number 8 of Maggie's letter. Utility as-built paper in digital format will be presented to the engineering for permanent records, including swing ties, and, local engineering inspection sketches should not be relied on. Huh. So, make that as a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, so that completes that, so.
Thank you.
Oh, there's no one here, right, other than your client?
That's my client, yeah.
Okay, 'cause I didn't see if anybody else behind the board. He didn't wanna speak, does he?
Huh? No.
He can speak now, it's too late.
I think I'm next.
You are? Oh, you're doing Shields? Okay, oh, I didn't even notice.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Okay. I thought you were doing it, you were here so early. You know?
Oh, no. It's a special permit and site plan. Do you need plans, anybody? They're here.
All right, is it listed on both? This one, Kate?
It's both on there, yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I
The hour being after 7:30 and 7:31, we have an application filed, site plan case 18-6 and special permit case 18-7, filed by Southside LLC, 505 South Street. Inspect the property 505 South Street on Assessors Map 47, parcels 114-1, in the industrial district, Walpole Resource Areas 2 and 3, shown on a plan by American Engineering. And the owner record requested site plan on section 13, allow expansion of existing parking lot, and a special permit pursuant to section 12.3C4, the zoning bylaw to increase the impervious from 55,865 to 42% to 63, 115 square foot of 47.7% for the expansion. With that being said, we will run these concurrent, because that's kind of the only way to do it. It makes more sense. So with that being said, and it's open, Dan?
Mr. Chairman, Dan Merrickin with American Engineering, here on behalf of the applicant. This is an existing building on South Street, number 505. We're not proposing an expansion of the building. The building is occupied by Ryan Construction presently and Tufts Vet Clinic. Ryan Construction's in the front, Tufts is in the back. It has an existing parking lot and driveway off of South Street. It has an existing stormwater basin here. What we are doing is proposing to add parking spaces here to the left of the building in what is currently a grassed area. Tufts is planning to occupy the whole building. Ryan Construction's gonna move to the new building next door that they just built at 545, which is just about complete. So the plan we presented to you was for 21 new spaces. I believe we received some comments from fire about there's a propane tank here, proximity to the propane tank, so we're gonna have to take away 4 of those spaces. We'll end up being plus 17. And that's about it, basically. What we're gonna do is, for stormwater management, we're gonna capture all this new runoff. The existing site has 2 basins that capture runoff right up to a sediment forebay and then through an infiltration basin which discharges towards the wetlands. This basin has enough capacity to accommodate the additional phases, and we've submitted a drainage report that documents that. So we're gonna add a catch basin to collect the runoff from this new catch basin and pipe it into the sediment forebay. And then the existing stormwater basin will continue to do what it has been doing. The existing stormwater basin, I'm not sure if it's been done yet, but it's going to be cleaned out. It lets some shrubs and small trees grow in there over the years, so they're gonna clean that up and get it in order. But otherwise, the basin is performing fine as it stands now. So 2 requests. 1 is site plan approval for the change in parking, and 2 is the increase in impervious coverage. We go to 47.7%, where 70% is allowed in the underlying district. So when we get over the 15%, we need the special permit, which it already had from the previous site plan approval. So this would just be a change to that. And that's about it.
Okay, read the comments from the departments. From the police, May 2nd. Police department doesn't have any safety concerns. From the zoning board of appeals, April 25th. They have no comments in the above matter. From sewer and water will not meet until June 11th, and will not have comments to the board until after that date. From the Deputy Fire Chief Paul Barry, Fire Department reviewed the plans, and our only concern at the time is the proximity of the underground storage tanks to the proposed parking. After consulting the state fire marshal's offices, I request the applicant have a fire protection engineer review and stamp the plans prior to site plan approval. And the question, that done?
No, I will get that done.
Okay. I mean to stop normal, but prior to site plan, okay. I suppose you need that in case you're gonna jockey things around, right?
Well, I think it's just gonna come down to, we need to, as I say, we need to eliminate some of the parking spaces adjacent to the tank itself. I guess there's a setback requirement between the edge of the tank and any parking spaces.
My point, it's not falling under building code or issue, it's gonna end
It
up.
falls under fire code.
But you're also gonna end up maybe changing the plan a little.
A little bit, yes.
Okay, I just wanted, and then last 2 is Maggie, you're up.
Just a real couple of quick things. I just wanna have you make sure, and I know it's only a small amount, but just make sure that the pipe coming in, the invert of the pipe coming in is not below the one going out. And it may be by a small amount, and if that small amount is really small.
Okay. I can look at that. I haven't seen your comments, so,
Oh, okay, I can forward these to you tomorrow if you want.
sure.
And I picked up on the parking spaces also. Do you have any idea which ones they're gonna make you or have you eliminate? I question whether you would be able to have the 2 parallel ones in front.
This is the way it will look. We're gonna end up striping off this whole area.
Oh, okay.
For no parking.
So at least those 2 parallel ones would be gone. Those are the 2.
The parallel ones will be gone, plus the one to the left and right of the
Okay.
tank as you're looking at the tank.
And I'd also ask that you put whatever the revised time to drain for the detention basin is going to be on the plan.
Okay.
And that's it.
You all set?
Yes, I'm done.
Tim?
I believe you did receive my comments?
I think so, yes.
Okay. I wanted you to talk about proprietary structure, removing contaminants, because we are in the aquifer area. We'll chat on that a little bit. You already talked about the stormwater management basin being overgrown, that's gonna be taken care of. I'd ask for detail on the outfall pipe into the basin to ensure that it's properly sized and there's not resulting in any erosion. Luminaires on the wall, should just confirm that those will be sufficient in the evening hours to illuminate that parking lot.
Yep.
The width of the travel spaces between those lanes, I'd ask that be noted on the plan. And then that the new island being created on the southwest corner be landscaped and noted on the plan.
Okay.
You all set?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Go back this way. Sarah?
Okay, one thing I just wanted to confirm, the water resource protection area, there's just that small sliver that's area 2
Out
on the
front,
east,
yeah.
on the east side, that's
There's
it?
a little tiny corner out here that's area 2.
That's it, and the rest is area 3?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, and as far as the parking lot, the width of the aisle, which was mentioned, but also the width of each stall and the length of each stall
Yep.
should be
I'll
noted?
add that. It's a 26-foot parking aisle, just so you know, so the parking spaces will be the 9 by 18 and a half.
Okay.
With a 26-foot aisle.
Okay, so just add that to the plans. Then I wanted to ask about a snow removal area, if that is on the plans, and do you have any conditions for snow removal because of, you know, is it like a low salt, no chemical, any other?
I'll have to look back at the old approvals to see if there was a restriction on that. I can check that out.
I would think you would want something like that. And the location of where you're gonna put the
Yep,
snow.
I can add that to the plan.
I don't know, because you're only adding to the parking, do you only have to show it for the new spot, or
I'll show
should you
the whole thing.
show the whole?
I'll find out what they do in practice and add that to the plan.
Okay, okay. And then, what was my question? The handicap spaces, you're not adding an additional handicap spaces, right?
No.
And that's sufficient?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. And does the tenant do anything special as far as the waste created from the business?
Tufts, I'm not sure what they do, or if they have hazardous waste generation, but I can find out.
There's animals being treated
Yes.
there?
It's
Yeah.
like an emergency hospital, that hospital.
Okay, so I would imagine there should be, you know, some kind of requirement to make sure that that's safely kept away from
I can find out.
any contamination issues. And that's all I had. Thank you.
Ron?
They're not changing any aspect of their business, Tufts, they're just expanding,
Just taking
correct?
more space.
More space, but they're not adding any services that would require another look at disposal or anything like that?
Not as far as I know.
Okay. Everything else I'm fine with, looks great.
Okay.
Unfortunately, I'm familiar with the property because I had to be there with my dog recently, so I think it's very well-kept property. It's well-run, everything's in order. I think it's well-established, and I don't see this as much of a change at all, so I don't have any issues with it.
Joe?
The only comment I have is between the development impact statement and the plan. You indicated on the development impact statement 21 new parking spaces and 68 existing, for a total of 89. When I go to sheet 2, I counted the parking spaces, I counted 68. When I went to sheet 3, I counted 70 where you had 68 and 20 new for a total of 90.
I'll have to check all that, Joe.
So I assume you're gonna
I gotta
be
change it anyways.
changing it anyhow. I'm just bringing that to your attention so that the next time, whatever you have is the correct number.
You know, I gotta tell you, Joe, before you got on the board, I don't think anybody read the DIS.
Nothing to read for us, it's supposed to be read by. So, are you gonna retract some of the earlier statements, or are you still sticking by your
Very
guns?
sloppy, Dan.
Duly noted. My apologies.
The other one was better.
No, you do good work.
I'll check all that out.
Dan, in the future, if you number those parking places, just number them, but skip a few, he'll never find it, just skip it.
You know, I had to do it, I had to count it over and over again, and I said, maybe
You
it's
counted
my
all the
eyes,
spaces?
maybe it's my eyes, maybe it's my age, because he doesn't really make this type of a mistake.
Everyone makes mistakes.
All right, given that you're in for both special permit and the site plan, and you're gonna have to come back, we know that. Now, on the special permit, you're in the aquifer, they would've had a file with the Board of Health, right, everything they got, just like Walpole Park South?
Well, Walpole Park South does stuff differently because Walpole Park South got a permit that basically allowed them to obtain Board of Health approval for, you know, a new tenant coming in with new kinds of chemicals. This would fall under their original permit that because they've been on site for, I don't know, 10 years or more.
Well, okay, well, that, I'm sorry to interrupt, unfortunately, we didn't have one from the Board of Health that might have answered it. Just get something from them, that's
Sure.
all. They've always answered us, just, we don't have it this time. Is there anybody here, public, wanna talk, questions on 505 South Street? Okay, if there isn't. We're gonna run out of time, that's one point, and the other point is, when do you think you'll be all together with your fire?
Well, I have to make some plan revisions and respond to the comments, so I don't know, a meeting in a month?
But you still have to, don't you gotta go through the state fire marshal or something, too?
No, I just have to have our fire protection engineer look at the plan with respect to the setbacks to the tank.
Oh, okay. All right, well. We're gonna go beyond the time anyway, because you're done June 6th.
Okay, so an extension through?
End of July?
Sure.
Okay. I'll make a motion to extension up through July 31st, 2018.
Second.
Second, any further discussions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, and? It's not, McJaman.
Can you make June 21?
Well, he's gonna have to do that, because you won't be here on that next meeting, right?
June 21st? Yeah, that'll work.
McJaman, none.
Do you wanna put them on before Permanence at the beginning?
What's the first one?
Permanent Street, North Street, Rustic Road, Renmar, AQV.
I don't see him taking this long.
Fine.
June 21st.
Yeah. Okay, 7:25 on the what'd you say, 21st? Okay,
Yep.
Yes.
okay,
Renmar is
7:25.
15 acre AQV, right?
Yeah, yeah.
725 and 726, I'm sorry.
Renmar, it's a 15 acre AQV?
Thank you for your time.
Yep. Next.
Cana Homes. I have revised plans, does anybody, I guess you all have them. What is it, does it say it on the
No,
folder?
that's why I left.
What does it run on?
Hmm?
What does it run on?
That can't be right.
Oh, there is one.
Um,
I think there was one.
yeah, okay. The hour being after 7:40, we have a continued hearing for Kiana Home, 763, 765 Main Street. And, so, John?
Mr. Chairman, my name is John Clausa Engineering, 46 East Street in East Walpole. And I'm here representing Anthony Yeba Cana Home. So last time I was here, you gave me a list of things to do. I think we got them all, or at least most of them. So I guess I could just quickly go over the revisions to the plans. Some of them were things we didn't discuss. First thing I think is, let me just turn to the site plan. So probably the biggest change to the plan is that Mr. Yeba is now not going to add on to the back of the building, and he's not gonna have a loading dock, even though this plan shows it, but I just found out probably in the last week or so, that he's not gonna have that loading dock. So that's sort of part of the issues have now been resolved, because he's not adding on to the back of the building, and he's not having a loading dock there. He's gonna replace the loading dock with it. He's gonna use that space for an elevator inside the building, or a lift, I guess he says. So we're still adding the 14 parking spaces, though, at the rear of the building, and as I may have said at the last meeting, that's been approved, or an order of conditions has been issued by the Conservation Commission, so we're all set on that aspect of it. So I'll just quickly read what the changes to the plans are, and then there might be a few other things I'm going to read from my notes, and then I can answer any questions. So, as I said, the rear of the building not shown, and no loading dock. I actually got an email from the abutter, Donnell Murphy, today, and what they want to do along the district zone line here, as you know, there's existing properties on both sides, and what they've agreed to do is a 6-foot-high vinyl fence with arborvitaes on Yeba's side, on the side of, on this side. So that doesn't show on this plan. That's actually how I showed it originally on the plan, because I had talked to Donnell about that quite a while ago. So, but we can revise this plan to add the arborvitaes on Yeba's side. The other thing was, you had asked me to remove, and I did, the 2 parking spaces that are at the front of the building. And we also added here, we're not going to be installing that, but that's what the, or as close as I can tell, that's what the state highway is going to do when they redo 1A in front of this property. They're going to split that Yeba's driveway, or Cana Homes driveway, into 2. One for the left side of the building, one for the right side of the building. So you won't be able to sort of cross and come out of the middle of the pavement. You'll have to come out one side or the other. We added signs regarding the allocation of parking spaces, employees at the rear and overflow, customers parking at the rear, and then customer parking at the front. We added the reconstruction of the sidewalk in front of the building. There'll be no freestanding sign, and there'll be, all the lighting is the existing lighting that's attached to the building. That's basically over the doorways, and that's directed down and away from abutting properties. As I said before, the trash, and I confirmed this with Mr. Yeba, the trash is, there's no dumpster here. The trash is collected inside the building and kept inside the building until it's taken away once a week by a private hauler. We added directional arrows to the plan to show where cars would enter and exit. Customers be directed to park in front with overflow parking in the rear. Access from the rear of the building via the paved driveway. Access from the rear of the building is via the paved driveway. Access on the northeast side of the building. So, so this is the only access. There's no access out behind the Griffin property. I have them with me tonight. There's an agreement with Watson's Candies, an agreement with Donnell Murphy, and I can submit those to you. We don't need to have a configuration for the loading dock because the loading dock has gone away. And the hours of operation, I received that in an email from Mr. Yeba, and the hours of operation are, I'll tell you in a minute. He said 9 a.m. to 6 a.m., so I'm going to assume that's Monday through Saturday.
6 p.m.?
6 p.m., right?
9 a.m. through 6 p.m. And I do have copies if I can approach, but I do have copies of emails, one from Donnell Murphy and one from Virginia.
Well, it sounds to me, if I may, it sounds to me that there looks like there's a lot more plans to be submitted, and you'll have to come back anyhow, right?
Why is that?
Well, the loading dock, the drawings, I mean, you said you wanted to add the fence to the arborvitaes and all this other
So the
stuff.
fence is on the plan, so I'm gonna add the arborvitaes and I'm gonna take the loading dock
I mean,
off.
is there anything else that you want to add to this?
No.
I don't know. It just seemed to me there was more work coming in and we were being a part two of it. And I thought maybe you needed another meeting in order to finalize all the drawings. Is that?
All I have to do is take off the words loading dock and add 6 arborvitaes, which is what Donnell agreed to, or what he asked for.
We'll see.
6 to 8 arborvitaes.
What do you want to do? I don't.
Well, there's another thing you gotta take off or change. New paving to existing paving.
What's that?
Over there.
Hmm?
You're showing new paving on your plan. It's now existing.
Well, it's always been paved, so I'm not changing the paving.
No. It was, you showed to do new paving at our last meeting, but now it exists, isn't that correct?
No, we never showed any new paving. All of the paving that's shown on the plan, other than what's behind the building, is there now.
What's that new black stuff that went down 2 weeks ago, John?
Well, so, it's pavement. But it's pavement that was placed over pavement that was there. And my understanding was, and I could be wrong about this because I didn't confirm it with the building inspector, is that they did contact the building inspector before they did it, but I can't confirm that for you, but.
Oh, okay, so this is like a plan in moving in progress then? We're just kind
No,
of
there's no expansion of the pavement. He simply repaved the portion of the lot that was already paved.
But our plan wasn't finalized, correct? There could have been adjustments to it.
If you want to adjust it, then we'll adjust it, but he simply repaved what was already paved, like a lot of people do every year. People repave their driveways.
Of course they do, but they also don't have plans in front of boards that, for approval.
So I'm kind of unsure of why it's a problem, but
At least for me, John, I don't do this for something in giggles. I drive by it, and it's in front of me, and it's being paved. Why do I even sit here? It's like, okay, have at it.
I could understand the concern if he was paving an area that was not already paved. But since it was already paved, it's simply a maintenance item, is it not?
We had a plan in front of us that could have changed, may still change, and he's already gone out and said, I'm done, I paved. I mean, you gotta speak for your client, but I sit here as my own individual, drive by and I go, oh, this is nice. So I guess the plan must have been approved when, just when I wasn't around.
Again, Mr. Chairman, I don't want to beat a dead horse, but
Well, I don't wanna be.
it's a maintenance item. He did not pave anything that was not paved already. And he's in front of you to add 14 spaces to the rear of this property, which doesn't have anything to do with the area that was repaved.
There's nothing to do. Well, it's on the plan. I think it has everything to do with it, but that's kind of where that whole thing's gone down there.
I agree.
Started without permits, and they had to get reeled back in, and then this happens. Reminds me of when I had to sit here and approve a pool table for the Mexican restaurant downtown that was already in there. I don't like doing that. I don't like being told, well, here it is, approve it.
But you see the difference, Mr. Chairman? And you just said it. The pool table wasn't there.
The pool
This
table
was-
was there. The pool table was there.
No. But it wasn't there, it was put there. The pool table wasn't there and then somebody came in and got a pool table wasn't there for 100 years and then someone came and got a permit. This has been paved. This building was built before 1900 because it shows on the layout plan for Route 1A in 1900. So it's been there for 118 years. He simply maintained the pavement that's there. I really don't understand why that's such a big problem, or why it's a problem at all.
So it is me as a problem as I go by, this is what we're doing. I don't think it was paved 118 years ago, and I can't believe it was paved 118 years ago, that maybe another 30 days you couldn't wait to do the whole thing.
I can't.
To me, John, this is just like, I'm gonna do what I want. I've been doing what I want down there all along, and I'm gonna continue to do it. Smart person, when you get paving prices, you do it all at once. It's a lot cheaper than going in and out. Plus, it's not occupied, so it isn't like he needed for his customers.
I can't tell you why he did it, but it's done, but I don't.
And the other thing
really-
is, I'm in the business a little bit, but I think I would have fixed the sidewalk before I paved it. Because you'll screw the paving up by putting
Right.
the sidewalk in.
So the thing about the sidewalk, though, is the sidewalk's within a state highway layout, so the first thing he would need is a permit to do that.
Well, then
so,
good, then he should be getting it.
Yeah. But that doesn't happen that quickly, so.
I've said my piece, I'll read the comments. Police have no safety concerns at this time. Board of Health voted unanimously to reiterate the comments of February 6th, and they have no concerns with the plan. ZBA, there are no comments of above matter. Fire Department reviewed for the location, and they have an inquiry as to trash storage inside the building and its projected quantity. That will be dealt with on your building permit, correct?
Yes.
And, let's see, make sure Maggie and Tim, so Maggie?
Just real quick, I'll send you a copy of this tomorrow. There, on sheet 5 of 7, there's 4, it's drafting issues. There were 4 notes that are cram jammed together, and they just need to be separated apart. So it's legible. That's it.
Okay, Tim?
I didn't have anything, Mr. Chairman. This was initiated before I arrived here.
Okay. Joe, you got more?
Just a couple of items. I too was driving by John and I saw the paving company actually doing the paving. And my initial reaction was, oh, this is interesting. It also looked like they cut down maybe some trees, or were they already removed along the side on that border?
Yeah, those have been removed for some time. those
Okay.
trees.
You know, I just see a plan that's it's like a working plan. I'd like to see a final plan with everything that we've talked about. I mean, you've come in here tonight and you've pretty much told us information for which we don't have any documents, we don't have anything. You're sort of updating the plan now. I don't have anything final to work off of, so.
Told you, Mr. Chairman, there's two things on the plan. 6 to 8 arborvitae's, and we're taking the loading dock off.
In the
Not
back of the
sure
building
why
is
that's,
off.
would require, why that couldn't just be conditioned, John, go fix the plans and we're done. I'm a little at a loss for that, but maybe you can explain it.
I'll see how the other board members react to that, but with respect to the trash, is the area where the trash is being stored, is that also sprinkled?
The whole building is sprinkled, yeah.
Okay, so where he's storing the trash is also sprinkled?
Yeah.
What kind of trash does he have, by the way?
The same that we would have in this building here.
Okay,
It's an office building,
okay.
so he has paper.
And you gave us the hours of operation. We talked about the last time about limiting the size of a truck at the loading dock, so now that's gone. And there's still only one snow storage area that you have on the plan?
Yeah, the snow storage area is in this area right here.
Okay, and that's the only one.
That's the only area.
All right, I'll refrain from any more comments at this time. Kate?
So we had discussed, and you said you have an email from Virginia Griffin, we had discussed that at length. And when I've driven by, I've seen a whole bunch of work going on, a lot of trucks there. And I've seen the Canna Homes trucks and the construction trucks all parked in front of Watson's in the parking spots. Was that an agreement they came to, or?
Well, I can give you the agreement that was given to me, or the email that Virginia sent to Anthony.
Okay, and we talked about, she had mentioned there was some damage out back and that was gonna be addressed, I thought. Was that an issue?
She didn't mention to me that there was any damage. She mentioned to me that on one occasion, and maybe more than one occasion, workers, and it probably had to do at the time of the demolition, drove their vehicles from the north side of her building around, you can go around the back of her building to the site, and she sort of objected to that, and I don't blame her for that.
Yeah, she said, when I had spoken to her, it's been quite some time, it was when this first was coming up and she couldn't make the first hearing, but she said there was a truck that drove right across her back lawn and dug it all up and she was gonna have to fix it.
Well, so she seems to be happy now.
Okay.
If you want to read the email, she seems to be happy with whatever Anthony promised her.
Okay, I also just want clarification. So before you had said this was a kitchen and bath, I was under the impression it was going to have displays and things, and that people were going to be able to come and pick up products from our discussions. That's what I came away with. So they don't need a loading area for that to get the products in and out?
Well, he owns a place on 83 Moore Street in Norwood, so my understanding is that's where he's going to keep his products. And this is going to be more of a showroom and an office area for people to generate the contracts and that sort of stuff.
So it's not
It's not an
really a
area.
sales area?
Right.
Okay. And just, if you can also clarify, so you said that the state was going to divide out front. What are you talking about, a granite curb or something?
Yeah, that's what they would put in, granite
And what
curb.
are they planning on redoing that portion of 1A? Is that why they're coming in to do it?
Oh, yeah. You can see them making the preparations now. I don't know if you see, I see them all the time. Green International, they're a big engineering firm, so they're out there doing the final engineering. They showed me the 100% plans. Do you have them?
I don't know yet.
Yeah,
I
they
don't
showed
think
me
they've
the
delivered
plans.
yet.
So
They haven't
they're at the
delivered
final
yet.
stages of
So we're 2021.
finalizing, what the plans would be for the
Won't be more than that.
reconstruction of Main
Just
Street.
keep it in bumps. Some of
And what
those
kind of a
bumps.
time frame are we talking about
Well,
starting that?
I don't know about that.
I'm just worried about in the meantime, how,
Well, I guess-
that was one of my big concerns from the beginning, was the people cutting straight across. And I'm just, that's all I'm concerned with. If it's in the future, near future, that's great, but if it's gonna be a, you know, extended time out, I still worry about that. I think that's such a dangerous area, and I think when they cut straight across like that, it's just a disaster waiting to happen, but, any ideas, Maggie? No?
It's a couple of years out still. We haven't, typically, we have the 75% plans have gone by. They're working on the hundreds. They're working on right-of-way issues. But there's a 100% plan set, there's a PS&E plan set. It's a couple of years out. I think the last I heard was that it was scheduled to be advertised for bids September of 2020. I'm not sure if that's firm yet, though. That may still be pushed out again. I'm not sure. I haven't gotten confirmation yet.
So what's the plan to address it in the meantime? You have it arrowed, is that, you have the,
That's how we have it now, yeah.
I can give you a little history on that, since I've been up on Main Street since 1984. It's been, they were gonna do it back then. We keep getting bumped. There's no guarantee this is ever gonna happen, because we'll just get bumped, okay? And one of the things is, when we did McDonald's says, no, we're not waiting for the state, we're gonna do it, because if not, you're gonna have to finish it up. And that's what's happened. Anybody who's done any work along there. We did have a little across the street. That should have never went the way it did, but it wasn't necessarily my doing, but McDonald's says, I'm gonna put it out there, and you can't wait for the state. So, your minimum, everybody says 2020, we got bumped, right? We got bumped.
It was,
bumped
it
ahead.
was.
Big time, yeah.
It's already been bumped a couple of years to 2020,
And it doesn't say we're not gonna get bumped again, because someone else can come in and just
potentially.
push us to the back of the bus. So this thing is gonna, this is gonna be, even if they bid it in September 2020, doesn't
Two
mean they're gonna,
construction seasons to build that.
yeah, the whole of 1A?
Basically from 27 to Norwood, at least two construction
I would
seasons.
say 3. I'm going through Medway every day, and they're on 3 seasons. But that's also, you wouldn't be doing until 2021. So we're almost 4 years out with nothing. But,
Minimum.
yeah. So,
can I request we see the emails?
yeah, we should get we asked for copies. Those should be ours. You all set, Kate?
I'm good.
Okay, Mark?
Yeah, a couple of things. So what you're saying is they've changed their plans and now there's no retail aspect of this location at all?
I'm not sure what you mean by retail. I mean, somebody comes in and they're gonna buy a faucet and walk out with a faucet, you mean? I mean,
Yeah, anything that, because last time we were discussing a couple of different items that were around that. For instance, the loading dock, the size of the trucks. If they were bringing trucks in, that we needed to debate what the size of those trucks were. You know, they're not gonna be bringing things in, fixtures that they're changing every week.
Right, right.
They're
So-
bringing in product. So, all right, have they eliminated that
Yeah,
aspect of the business?
That's gone, but I'm not gonna tell you that. He's not gonna, say, hey, I got a faucet, I'll meet you at,
Oh, well, that's different. I mean, like a.
no,
Yeah.
yeah, that's gone, he's not doing, that's not happening here. All of that's gonna happen in Norwood.
Okay. The second thing I have is, we discussed last time, access to the building and showroom from the rear. Was that ever addressed, as opposed to walking up the side of the building and then through the front door if you are forced to park back there?
Well, I asked him about it, so he didn't respond, so I'm saying that you have to walk from the back of the building to the front of the building. There really isn't any way to get in to the back. He's talking about a lift, so maybe that's what he's working on, but let's say, for right now, the only way to get from the parking in the rear of the building to the building is to walk up between Watson's and in this building to the front. You can't walk around the other side.
Oh, I
because
understand.
It's literally 2 feet
But
away
there's-
from the.
I guess and I'm not gonna tell him how to run his business, obviously, but there's a loading dock back there.
No, not anymore.
Well, there's a hole in the building for stuff to go in.
That's, no more loading dock. There's no loading dock.
Well, so what did they do with the building access where the loading dock used to be?
So my understanding is he's going to the state to see if he can put a lift there, which I guess would mean if somebody did go there, then they can get to the upstairs of the building that way, I guess
I
because
mean, with
it's.
the stuff that they're gonna buy that they're not selling? Why do they need a lift?
Well, I think you need a lift when you're 3 stories and you're a public building.
So they need, they're talking about their
For a 3-story
ADA.
building, you have to have an elevator, you have to have some way to get.
They're talking about
Yeah, a
handicapped
person, a
access.
person, not materials.
not materials.
A person.
So the people will be, anyone that would need the lift would be going in through the back door.
Yeah, but as I said, he's gotta go through the state to get approval for that. So right now,
Does he have to
I'd
go through the
say
state
for
to get
this,
approved to go through the back door to get into the showroom?
to use the lift. Can't just stick one of these things.
Let's say he doesn't have a lift, he still has a door.
And you're gonna walk around the building to the front of the building. And like I said, Mark, you go to Walpole Mall, right? You park out by Route 1, how do you get to the mall? You walk down a 24-foot or 26-foot wide aisle, that's how it's done everywhere.
Yeah, but if the people that work in the Walpole Mall park behind it, they go in the back door. I'm just saying, I mean, that, again, I'm not gonna tell him how to run his business, but if he gets busy, or if there are people going in there, and, I mean, we all use the same story, you know, we drive by there, we see what's going on. If there are people walking around that building on a regular basis to get in, you know, that's not the best driveway to be walking up at dusk when someone else is coming down because they're picking up a faucet that they weren't supposed to buy there. So it's, I'm not trying to be, you know, flippant here, but if he's got access in the back where he's going to put his ADA required lift after he gets approval, why can't the door be available for everyone that parks back there into the showroom? Or the,
Well, it would be, but what I'm saying is, we're sort of jumping to a conclusion that he's gonna get that permit, right? So-
even if he doesn't, I'm sure there's still a hole in the side of the building there that the door used to be at.
But if it's a 3-story building, you can't do it. So it's 3 stories up to the top. You can't do it.
Oh, so you're saying that the
You have to have.
access door is 3 stories off the ground?
That, where the loading dock was, that's the basement floor. And then there's the first floor, which is the floor that essentially you see
Right,
as you
from the
drive
front,
by. And
yeah.
then there's the second floor, obviously above the first floor. So that makes it a 3-story building. So if you're gonna use that basement floor as access, you have to provide an elevator or some sort of mechanical lift to get to the other floors. That's the law, that's the way it is.
Okay, so if he gets the lift approval, will he then make that entrance available to whoever is
Well,
parking
that's-
back there?
Yeah, that's
Okay,
why I think
all
he's
right.
trying to get the lift
All right,
approval,
no,
to
that was
make it
an easier way
to-
around it, yeah. If that's the plan, then that's fine.
That's his plan. I'm just saying that you're asking me a question, and I can't guarantee you that that's gonna happen, because it hasn't happened. I mean, it seems likely
How
it
does
would
he-
happen,
So
but it
if he
hasn't
doesn't get
happened.
the approval, will anyone that needs help to get into the upper floors of the building need to go into the front door?
They'll go in the front door,
So
and
that's where all your
the
handicap-
basement floor will not be able to be used as, for public
Right, so
access, or
storage
for
of it,
public
whatever it
use,
is. Okay.
because, so there are, buildings that are like that.
Sure. Okay, I misunderstood. I thought that it was the lift and only the lift, and no one was gonna be able to get into the building from the back.
No,
Okay. All right, the other questions I have is you mentioned something, look at my notes here, about the lighting outside, and you said all the lighting will be, item 7, no freestanding lighting, all lighting will be attached to the existing building and will be directed downward. What do you propose to do with the 4 uplights? Are they under any restrictions from dark skies or anything? I mean, you got 4 uplights right in the front of the building.
not that I know of, but,
Not that you know that are there, or,
not that I know of that there's any restriction, no.
but number 7 says all lighting is gonna be facing downward. Now, don't get me wrong, I love the way that looks, but you said all lighting is gonna be facing downward, and the first thing they did when they were halfway done with building the building was they put those 4 uplights in the front. So I'm just curious if those are part of number 7 or not.
Well, I don't think that they're the type of light, they're lighting the front of the building, right? They're not providing the lighting for people to walk around the building to find the entrances. They're decorative lights.
I agree with you. But there's a lot of restrictions now about uplighting in dark skies, and I don't see those lights on the plan anywhere, so I was wondering if those are being addressed with your item number 7, which says all lighting attached to the
Well,
building will be downward facing.
I was thinking more of the lighting that he was putting over the entrances, and I think there's one around the other side, on the Griffin side, that are facing down.
Okay, so the uplighting was approved then on the plans? The only reason I'm asking is because you do this every day.
Yeah.
So I take little bits of information from experience that I gained from actually being involved in this process. I learn from you, I learn from everybody that comes up. And one of the things I've learned from talking to some other
They have to be existing.
architects and builders is that there's huge restrictions now on uplighting, which is why the Corcoran project is not allowed to do any. They're doing all downlighting on the side of that building for decorative purposes. So when the lighting issue was just mentioned, it made me say to myself, what's with the uplighting? It seems like you put it on because it looks good, but it wasn't on any plan. That's all I'm asking you.
Check into it.
So,
Could you check into that?
Yeah,
And
sure.
find out, because,
yeah,
number 7 specifically says downlighting.
yeah.
And I think, yeah, that's all I had. Thank you.
John?
All right, can you go around the building and just talk about all the entrances and the purpose? Like, are they for workers, for customers? Where is the main entrance? Where are the other entrances that are possible?
So there's 2 entrances. One is right here, which I would say is most likely the main entrance into the building, and the other entrance is here. So there is an entrance now here, which may or may not, and that's at the basement floor elevation, which may or may not be used as a customer or as an entrance for public use, let's say, which may or may not include the employees, actually.
Okay,
So there's 2, the 2 are here and here.
okay. And in the back, is there an entrance?
No,
Nothing. Are these steps in the back? Next to this, looks like a new dock.
so the architect shows this on the plan, and I believe that that's a fire exit. So I don't think that there's a door there, that it's a way to get out of the building.
How do you get out of a building without a door? Jump through a window?
Yeah,
Seriously?
well, I think as long, I don't think that they necessarily need to have a door.
Okay, so there's
But
is this dock, this is a new dock, correct?
It's a deck,
Yeah,
right?
Somebody in
It's
the wheelchair
above.
a
so
deck,
it's-
yeah, so the
Right.
deck and the steps are
Okay,
new,
there
but there's no door.
There was no door shown on the plan that I saw. There's just a deck.
Okay. That's unusual, okay, and so,
So if you go in, I don't want to argue, but if you go in Boston and you see fire escapes, there aren't doors to those fire escapes.
okay,
Right? There's
this is not
windows.
Boston, but, yeah,
Well, there's windows. It's a code thing, no?
okay, all right, I'm just trying to understand. Okay, so the entrance that's near the handicap spot, would you say that's the main entrance? You said the main entrance was the other one, so why is the handicap spot all the way over on the western side of the parking lot?
I've got to show this first.
Well, so that's the one that works best without losing a parking space, so.
Okay. So you're asking the handicap person to travel the furthest?
Well, the ramp is here for the handicap, so they're gonna go here and up the ramp and
Oh, I see, okay. So they're going across and up, okay. Okay, that's a little better. Okay, so I like that you took out the parking spots 8 and 9. However, we talked about adding some kind of landscaping or something to prevent, because right now, even though, let's say 5 years from now, when 1A is done, there's a curb, nothing's preventing people from driving across and/or parking there. On those spots, the previous 8 and 9, if you remember what I'm talking about. So I would like to see something there for safety reasons.
Okay. My recommendation is we just put bollards and block it off and see what's gonna happen, because, you know, it's still a little unclear what's gonna happen there. The state showed me a plan, so.
I mean, I think Katie brought it up. If there's a, you know, a spot for somebody to park, somebody's gonna park there.
Well, if
We
you
have to
put,
do something there. We have to do something.
if you put bollards, right, so if you put bollards
So
5 feet on center, let's say, then no one can drive through.
should
there.
that be shown on the plan?
Well, I can add them now, but you're the one, you're bringing it up now, so. I know I brought it up before, but once I met with the state and they showed me that they were separating the curb cuts, that
Yeah.
seemed to be a reasonable, to me, that seemed to be a reasonable solution. that
Not to
they're doing.
interrupt, Sarah, I'm sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
But just, I think with the unknown time frame coming, something has to be done in the meantime. You know,
That's why I would suggest
Yeah.
bollards. So bollards are, 3 feet high, you can even put a chain in between them or something, until we see what the state's.
So are you suggesting no
what is he?
cross access?
Well, that's what
Like
you're
those- yeah,
suggesting.
those
I'm not
like
so sure
concrete.
that it's that
Well,
much of a safety.
my thoughts on that,
issue.
sorry to interrupt you, Sarah, but
Yeah, the people put
it would seem to me that
Oh, I know what you mean.
practically speaking, I would not necessarily want to block off all transfer traffic in front of the building there, because if somebody pulls into the front side and there's no parking, they're gonna have to pull back out onto 1A and then immediately hanging on
Right.
left back in.
Right.
If they could cut in front of the building and
Something
back
to
down the side, but
discourage
something
parking.
to discourage parking just off the building, but leaving one lane.
Not just
So,
parking.
so I
they
can
don't
put
want
the
them pulling
bollards
out.
parallel with Main Street. So
That would be my suggestion.
effectively doing what the state says they're gonna do. They're gonna do it with curbing. We could do it with some bollards, so that, like you said, if someone pulls in and this side is full, they would just have to sort of back up and scoot through.
As
and come
opposed to
out
going
the other
back out onto 1A and then back in.
Yeah, but I don't
So-
think they should be driving across the front of the building. Because if you're gonna do it to turn around, you can do it to exit too. Haven't you ever been there and seen them? Do you know what I mean? You
Yeah,
see them
I
Well,
go,
I'm not saying that they shouldn't have the curb there. I'm saying the only way to cross there is when you go in one of the new cut entrances.
inside, okay.
So
It'll
inside,
restrict them
Right.
from,
it'll
okay.
restrict them from
I'm all right with
exiting
that.
right there, but if they're already in and they need to go around the back of the building, I'd hate to see people have to pull out onto 1A and then back in.
Yep.
I like the use of bollards. I would have recommended that off the building.
Yeah, so I see two issues. I see the bollard, and then you need to do something, I think, to address the curb that is gonna be placed sometime 5 years in the future, so, I don't know, we need a temporary curb or something, I think, is what I would recommend.
I agree. Whatever McDonald's did, I think is a good idea.
Okay.
No retail, yeah.
So you want them, you're asking to place the curbing the way the state is gonna do it, or?
It doesn't have to be the way the state is gonna do it, some kind of temporary curb that's gonna, block off that area so that it's not all, like all driveway all the way across. I don't know if it has to be it has to be the V4 Walpole
Anything
curb,
he
or,
puts out on the highway has to be approved by Mass DOT.
It's unlikely they're gonna do that. So. what
they
I'm
won't approve it
suggesting
even
is-
if they're not planning to fix it for another 5 years?
What McDonald's ran into, that's exactly what McDonald's ran into, and that was, I don't know how many years ago, because this project's been in the works for 20-odd years.
Yeah,
They'll probably either not let him do anything, saying that you have to wait, or they'll make him put in whatever it is they haven't completely designed yet.
Well, Rockland Federal did the same thing.
Right.
And that's only
Yeah.
like 2 years or 3 years ago. It's a matter of the willingness to go down and talk to them and spend the money. That's what it comes down to.
But
So
doable.
it's something
Oh,
that
yeah.
this board
Yeah.
can request
Yeah.
and make a condition. Yeah, I think it's important. And on that area of the safety, so there is an existing sign which says, no left turn. But I drive by there all the time, several times a day, and I would like to see like a right turn only instead of no left turn. So to tell people they can't go across and they can't go left. That's-
The people coming from Kendall Street?
Yeah, Kendall.
But that's not our sign. That's
Okay.
the state highway sign.
So we can't,
No, that's on, yeah, that's a
it's
state.
state highway. Okay. Okay, Massachusetts, I would like to see a right turn only sign there. Okay, can you show the dimension of the building, the corner, the northeast corner with the lot line?
This dimension here?
Yeah,
You want me to add it to the plan, or do you want?
yes, yeah, please, yeah. And right, okay, so regarding the parking, so our bylaw says that when there's more than 6 spaces, that you're required to add 10% landscaped open space. So I'm not sure that that was done in the back, possibly also the front.
So you want us to take the back and add 10% landscape?
I think that's
Or
according
put
to
it in
the,
front in between
according to the
two
bylaws.
cuts.
Anytime you have more than 6 spaces, you should required to add 10% landscaped open space within that parking lot to kind of break it up.
Okay.
Or perhaps request a waiver of that, I mean, but that's a regulation, Walpole regulation.
Okay.
And on the fence and arborvitae, didn't we talk the first time that there really isn't space to put arborvitae, but you found space?
Well, there's a little bit of space where those trees are now along that lot line. So if we put the fence on the lot line, there's a little bit of space between the fence and the pavement. There isn't much. The
And it's
trees-
gonna go all the way along
Well,
those first spots?
they want 6 to 8 arborvitaes, yeah. In this area, maybe.
And you're able to do that and still maintain that size of parking space?
Well, you can see the lot line, and you can see the edge of the pavement. There's a little bit of space in there. That's what the 2 neighbors agreed that they wanted to have done.
Okay, but it'll be focused more towards 1A, right? Because as you go away from 1A, you don't have as much space.
Yeah, I think, they just want it right in here, mostly where this building, you know, you can see into the parking lot.
Okay,
And in here,
okay,
so.
okay. And I just wanted to confirm the hours of operation. You said 9 to 6, you said Monday through Saturday?
Well, he didn't say, but I doubt if they're open on Sunday, so I'm gonna say Monday through Saturday. He sent me an email, he said 9 to 6.
Okay.
On this side of the fence.
So you're assuming they're closed on Sundays?
Yeah.
Okay.
We don't set hours anyway. Right.
Okay, those are my questions. Thank you.
My turn. Couple questions, John, more than a couple
Yeah.
then. You done writing.
Good.
So, my understanding is with this new plan, the addition over the back parking lot is gone, correct?
Yeah, no addition.
Okay, and earlier Mark was talking about there's 4 uplights right now that are out there,
Yeah.
so, but they're not on the plan.
Yeah, I can add them to the plan.
Well,
I thought more, those lights shine on the building, right? They're not shining onto someone's property, right?
okay, let me
But-
continue.
I can add them onto the plan.
Well, you'll understand in a minute. Now, the loading dock is no longer gonna be the loading dock, and they're gonna put a lift there?
He's trying to get permission from the state to put a lift there.
Okay. A lift for people,
People.
but not for materials. Okay, now, this is not a proposed building, correct?
No, that building's been there, like I said, since at least 1900.
Yes, okay. So, with that being said, but the lights, they come 118 years ago?
No,
Did they come with Allied?
no.
So they're part of the site plan that should have been on there, that have to be there. I mean, it's taking a claim. Now, the other thing is, does he have a permit on this presently?
I don't know.
A building permit?
As far as I know, he does, but
How did he get a building permit without having an elevator in there?
because he's not using 3 floors. In fact, I think his building permit for occupancy is only for the 1 floor, the first floor.
So
I could be wrong about that. I mean, I didn't really look into his building.
Okay,
It's only when you have 3 floors that you need the elevator. You can have 2 floors, but once you add the third, you have to
You
have an
couldn't.
elevator.
what?
We couldn't at my office.
Use a third.
We couldn't use the second floor for public use
Yeah, use it for.
because we didn't have an elevator.
Yeah, but now so we have a building that has a permit, but we don't know if it's got a lift. We were doing a big addition, but we're not doing the addition. We were having sales and pickup, we're not doing, lots changed in like a month.
That was all in the plans that,
But like I said, a lot's changed since the last time you've been here. Now, the other thing with the lift, I think I know a little bit, it's gonna be enclosed. It's not gonna be sitting out there in the loading dock. You're not gonna get on it like you're going, like at Six Flags, go poof,
I hope not.
right? It's gonna be a regular elevator, it's gonna have to be enclosed, so that's gonna be part of the calculation for your building. So I don't quite, it appears that we are, I'd say jumping the gun a little bit on this. So what we have is, we have a building that needs a lift.
Understanding though, what do you mean about the calculation for the building?
Well, it's now gonna be, it's not gonna be an open space, it'll be part of the, each floor. Now your square footage will increase. All right?
Because,
Because you got an elevator, it serves 3 floors. The footprint will be bigger.
I don't know, I don't think he really intends to use the basement floor. I just think that's where he intends to access
My
the
point is,
building.
we're gonna have an elevator that's gonna get enclosed, maybe, one way or another. The other thing we don't show on here is how do you get to that elevator from the loading dock? Or do you gotta go into the building from the front and then go down there? Or is that gonna come all the way down to the parking lot?
Well, my understanding is it comes down to the parking lot.
But
That's
it's
what
not
he's-
shown here, correct?
Right, I don't know that much about it. I was just told about
Okay,
it.
well, it would be nice, since we're doing the site plan, if you're gonna have an elevator that's used for handicap, that you have to have something around it to protect the people from getting on and off, and which way you're exiting and the cars coming around. I don't see that here, so they just roll out? They go north,
Well, they have to
east?
go through a window.
After they climb through the window,
There's nothing showing on the plan.
Okay, so we'll forget the lift, all right? So the people will walk from the back of the building to the front.
Let me forget, you said he's going to try to get the lift. Now we're gonna forget the lift.
Well, if he gets the approval to do it, we'll come back. All right? It could be a long process. Who knows how long that takes?
Well, it's been a long process, what, about 3 years going on down there, but the fact that we're just applying for the lift now. So you're telling us that the loading dock's gonna be in a lift, but we're not gonna get a lift, so just ignore it for now and maybe we'll come back. And we also have lights that have been there, but weren't there back 118 years ago, but they were there. And now we have paving, that he's just fixing up paving. A lot of spins here, John. And one of the things, as you said earlier, and I wrote down here, you can condition it. One of the things about condition, when someone says, can I condition a plan, a lot of it has to do with trust. Haven't seen a lot here. We're going this way, this way, this way, this way. Yeah, we're not picking up any valves anymore or toilets, so we're not running out there. Now it's just gonna be strictly office space, and everything is just spinning. To me, right now, unless you continue, I'm saying no, because this is not a plan. You've told us, you've said right out here that it's gonna have a lift, and we talked about the lift for a half hour. Now, well, maybe we won't have a lift. I'm just, and the other thing is, look, from what Ginny Griffin said, it sounds like you're moving in soon. I don't know. There's too many balls in the air for me on this particular one. Bollards and landscaping were talked about last time, and it's still not on the plan. There's a lot of resistance to do anything. It's basically, you're here because or your client was told he had to be here. So, right now, unless you're coming back, John, I'm saying, you already got my no vote, because it's not a complete plan. It's not done in accordance to the way it should be per the site plans, and there's too many balls in the air, so. What is your flavor, I guess?
Well, as I said, I took the landscaping off because when I met with the state, they showed me, we're gonna separate that driveway, we're only gonna have one driveway on each side. So I said, why should we, separate the thing, make it difficult for people to maneuver around, just make it more difficult, so.
No, I understand, let's not rehash. I'm at the point where, is your plan to come back and address all these that everybody's had tonight, or you think you should get it tonight?
I think we should get it tonight.
All right, well, you got my vote, so you don't have to worry about that, so that's not gonna be a mystery. Because this is a very easy one to vote down, because you haven't done anything that we've asked, and you've changed the plan, and we have no finality on half this stuff, so.
Well, I think I did everything that you asked. I did, as I said, I did take the landscaping. Originally, we put it on, but then after I met with the state, I took it back off because they said they were gonna separate the driveway anyway. So it was sort of like, why should I, create that separation when the state was gonna do it anyway. So everything else that you asked for me was put on the plan. Unfortunately, in my endeavor to be honest, I brought up the lift, but the lift really isn't something that's permitted, and so I don't see any reason why, if he does get permitted, he can't come back in front of the board to amend the site plan. It's simply gonna be showing where this door and this access is gonna be. I just don't understand why that has to, be so complicated, but.
I understand. I don't understand why it has to be so complicated either. If he'd done this the first time, instead of going down there and just knocking the place out, and then he gets caught, and then he gets dragged down, that's what we got here, and now he's paving. I mean, come on, and right on Main Street. If you're up in the bowels of Lincoln Road, yeah, I can see you trying to get away with it, but right out in front of everybody, here I am.
The bowels.
Right?
Again, Mr. Chairman, I have a disagreement with you about that. It's a maintenance thing. To me, it's no different than if he painted the building. You seem to think he did something. He didn't make more pavement. He didn't make less pavement. He just paved a portion of the pavement that's already there. I'm kind of unclear why that would, require a permit from the planning board, the building inspector, or anyone. But,
Because most of the times, John, when you're doing a site plan, the building's not built. Matter of fact, all the time.
Pavement was there, he simply repaved it.
Okay, so that's the answer, rather than, so it's just, basically, I look at it as, he's just telling me, you don't matter. Your board doesn't matter. I'm doing what I want to do. I'm going to get a lift, maybe or not. I'm going to do this. Maybe I'm going to listen to you, maybe I'm not. The state's going to do this in 2060, and I'm not going to do anything. That's kind of the way it's been down there.
I don't know when the state's gonna do it or not. I don't think anyone.
Well, why don't we just say this? The state's not going to do it. That's the best way, because they haven't come up yet on anything.
Okay, so I gave you a remedy. Simply put a row of bollards across the front of the.
Okay, but none of it's on the plan. John, you got 4 other members. As far as I'm concerned, if you're not gonna go ahead, I'll ask you right now. Are you gonna continue, or you want
I
to
don't
cut
want-
bait right now?
No, I'm not that crazy. I'm Stop laughing. I mean, everyone's gonna vote it down, and why bother? I mean, I'll gladly come back, but, you know, most of the things that you're talking about, I can't fix. I can't unpave it, it was paved, you know, so.
No, but we could have had, the fact that there were lights that were put in should be on here. We could say no to the
Yeah,
lights.
that's my fault. I didn't really recognize those as lighting that I thought lighting more like parking lot lighting, that sort of stuff. Those are decorative lights, right, that light the building.
John, you went into Allied, what used to be there, right?
It didn't look like.
You didn't have any of those lights, so anything that's been
Okay,
added
okay.
since there should be on our plan.
All right, I got it. I'll add anything that's new, I'll add it to the plan.
Can you do me a favor? And
Yes.
I know I'm beating a dead horse, and I know we've got a lot of things after you that might take some time. However, I'm having trouble with your continued use of the word lift. So act like you never said it before, and describe to me what the lift that they are thinking about is.
I've only had a conversation with Mr. Yeva. He said, we're not using that as a loading dock. We're going to the state to see if we can put a lift there. So,
But he didn't say for what?
no, I assume that he's talking about if he's, wants to use those upper stories and access them from the lower story, that he needs an elevator. So he's talking about a lift, which I'm assuming is.
Outside of the building lift?
No.
So an inside of the
Assuming
building
it's like
lift?
something you.
Elevator inside.
An elevator inside?
Right, but if you go to, 3 West Street, there's plenty of buildings with lifts in them, right? You kind of sit down, you go from one level to another.
So a stair
Well,
lift?
that would be with my,
I don't want, I can't deal with guesses. I'm just curious as to what he means. 'Cause
Well, I don't-
when you say lift, When you say
I'll let
lift-
you know, I don't know right now.
Given
I assumed something and maybe I shouldn't have. I didn't.
given the fact that things have changed so much and things get done before they get talked about, when I hear lift, and by the way, I am inclined to believe that you really don't know. I'm not sure he's telling you everything. But when I hear lift coming from this project, I hear lifting refrigerators up to the 3rd floor because he doesn't feel like dealing with anything else, and he wants to add a component that he doesn't necessarily want to put a loading dock on and the addition, but he still wants to bring some stuff in there that he doesn't feel like dragging upstairs.
But that would require a loading dock though, right? So he's telling me, and I'm telling you, there's no loading dock. So a lift like that would have to have a loading dock, right?
I don't know, because I have no plan that shows me even where it lands.
Well, the focus was the loading dock, and what I said is the loading dock is no longer there.
Is the loading dock off the ground? The entrance to the building from the loading dock, is it?
Well, I don't know if you've seen it, there's like a big concrete,
I'm
like a
asking you.
loading dock, yeah, off the ground, like 3
Off
feet.
the ground,
That
and how
there's-
do you get to
that's-
that concrete entrance out, what is it, 2,
That
3
was-
feet off the ground? Or is
But
it 10
that
feet
was
off the
for
ground?
the building that was demolished in the back, so the actual,
You always answer questions differently than how I'm asking them.
Okay, go ahead,
That
ask-
slab,
ask me that.
how far off the ground is it? How far is that
3
entrance?
feet,
3 feet off the ground?
right.
And is there a ramp that gets to it, or is there stairs?
I believe there's stairs.
Okay, so if that was going to be a handicapped access with an elevator inside, if he gets approved, he's going to have to put a ramp on that?
You're missing the point. You didn't
I'm
listen.
trying to understand the point. I'm not missing. If you answered the questions in a way that I found acceptable, and I'm pretty easy about that, I'd be like, okay, I'm just looking for clarification. And listen, with these plans, would anybody on this board, did you ever hear the word lift before tonight?
No.
No, so I'm just asking you to clarify what you said, very simply. Because what'll happen is you're gonna take the lift off the table, we're gonna try to get something approved tonight, and Jack's gonna go in and get his mint chocolate chip at Scoops next door, and he's gonna see a lift being installed in the back. Because things happen before we see them. And I don't know, I mean, I've been here as long as Jack, no one has, but it would seem to me that if the plans were changing so much, that we would have seen plans that were changed with everything that you wanted, as opposed to just explanations.
Well, so, do you wanna go back to what I was saying?
No, what I would like to do, if you don't mind, I'd just like to terminate this discussion, give you a new date, have you come back with a final cohesive plan that looks like we can close on. Get with your client and find out what he wants to do. Because this is what I said from the beginning. I feel like I'm being, John, I feel like I'm being force-fed, and I feel like all of this is a very fluid plan. You don't really know what's, in some cases, what your client wants. So I would just as soon have you come back and have you submit something that we can all sit and review before you come in, and we know that this is going to be a final plan. This is really not the way to do business.
It might be helpful if the applicant came too, because a lot of questions that we ask you believe, but you're not sure because you're not the person
Well, I
who's
thought
deciding.
he was gonna be here.
Yeah.
And John, understand that I truly believe that you're being hung out to dry on this one too. I believe you don't know exactly what he wants to do, and you're answering honestly, but these are things that I'm not comfortable leaving up in the air, so.
Well, I know what he wants to do on the exterior of the building. What he wants to do on the interior of the building really is not sort of part of my role here. But if you believe that you want me to answer those questions, I will. But I'll have to ask him exactly what it is.
So,
But it doesn't, the dock that's there, this is what I started to say, that you see from the street that sticks up about 3 feet or so, was for the building in the rear.
Right.
That's always been shown on this plan to be removed, because that's not part of this building, actually.
It's not
There's
shown
a
to be
door.
removed.
it's still on there.
Still there.
There's a door here that's essentially at grade, so that's how you would get into the building. So my mistake was, I thought that you had already recognized that there was a dock sticking up. When you drive by, you can see it, but that's
Before you
not part of
stepped up to
this.
the podium, I was fully prepared to be looking at the addition off the back of the building. So you're telling us things that are brand new.
Yeah.
So we're just
That's been
asking
on the plans for,
questions.
that's been on the plans for the 2 weeks that we've had, that there's no addition.
Sarah's gonna ask a question, but, John, I'm looking at this new plan, shows a loading dock. So you do have a loading dock there.
No, that's the loading dock oh yeah, there was a loading dock, you're right, because, not the dock though, that thing is being removed,
That's the invisible loading
there's
dock.
like a door here, right? So we
that-
call that a loading dock, but there's actually like a loading door there.
It says
So the-
loading dock.
It's on the plan. So
But the door is the door is at grade.
It shows stairs going up to it.
Now, this is at the first floor of the building.
Yep.
The dock is underneath that, or the door is underneath that. This that's in light color right there, that's the actual piece of concrete that you see when you drive by. That's being removed. That's part of the other part of the building. That was the dock that was used in the other part of the building to access that part of it.
So what's the dock where he's proposing to put the lift with the state?
It's
there.
right here. It's underneath here. It says loading dock, but it's really a door. And it's not, this isn't it. This is on the first floor. It's below this. I can, there's some, architect's plans I can drop.
Well, you're supposed to have renderings too. That should be on it, but. All right, I'm sorry, you had something.
So my question is, so the development impact statement that was submitted talks about that addition, which now is no longer happening. Do they need to redo that
Would be nice.
development impact statement
Okay.
so that we don't have it filed and people
Yep.
are wondering, where's this addition? That's it.
So John, we fishing, we cutting bait, or what?
Flip a coin, see which way it comes.
It's gonna come up heads every time.
Go ahead, make a motion.
So you're not
No,
gonna
no, continue,
Okay. I need extension
yeah.
through the end of July? Okay. Make a motion.
You may wanna go beyond that.
Well, that's the other thing. Joe probably missed that meeting. He might miss another one, dude, just so you know. So if you see it,
You have a board
Yeah,
of
well,
four.
Let's just go, we'll go forward,
you go forward.
yeah,
Now, if I was on vacation, that'd be a different story.
and we definitely go forward.
Yeah, you'll be checking my airline tickets or something, won't you? Okay, I'll make a motion to grant extension up through July 31st.
Second.
Second. Discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
And we'll put you on for the 19th. Is it July? That's the only one we got, right? Unless you wanna do
July 19th.
double, triple overtime on June 21st.
No, that would be June 22nd, technically.
All right.
At 7:30.
7:30, okay. We'll continue this public hearing till July 19th at 7:30.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
It's in Caddyshack. It's a pond, well, it's a pond. Pond is over here. And,
It's a door, but it says
no, there's no pool, but there's a window.
The door is underneath
The window.
the dock.
Oh.
It's not, it's there, but it's gonna come
We
down.
didn't need a lift when we had all that other stuff there.
Break? Yeah, go ahead.
You,
I'm gonna go too.
all right, 5 minutes?
Yeah, that'd be great.
All right.
This is, do we need plans on this one?
I think you can get it, make it a
Huh?
It should be May 3rd, I think they came in. What is the date on those?
May 3rd.
Okay.
22nd. Oh, yeah. Not much has changed.
No, but we did get something from the fire chief. Did you get it? Yeah.
Did I?
I think, so. Did I send it?
Is it in here?
Open that up. I think it came in late.
I saw it.
Yes.
No, sorry, that's Kennel.
Questions?
That's the one. That's the one. Why do I have that with that? It's not postponed here. That was postponed.
I think it came in late, I think. Yeah, there it is, right here.
This one? Oh.
If we need extensions, if it doesn't go tonight.
Yeah, it goes to the end of this month.
Yeah, May 31st.
Hmm?
May 31st it expires.
All the off-in lots on.
All right, everybody ready? Okay, yeah, I'll be in. After 7:45, we have a continued Nichols Pond subdivision hearing. Mr. Truax, you submitted some new plans, is that my understanding? Would you care to explain what
Sure.
you've done, so
Sure.
everyone knows what's happening since?
For the
that time?
record, Rob Truax, GLM Engineering Consultants. So, since the last meeting, we met with Margaret Walker to clean up the last remaining engineering comments that she had. We revised the plans to address her comments. In addition to what you would see in that packet of plans, we provided a copy of an easement plan that we would record for the water line that would go cross-country through the adjacent land owned by Lewis Park Trust. It's at the, I think it's at the back of the set of plans. And also, David submitted to the board a copy of an agreement that he has with the neighbors on Barracuda Lane, which would be giving up the rights in Barracuda and the reserve strip. He also gave you a copy of a draft deed that would deed the 2 acres of land off the back of the parcel to the town of Walpole. He gave you a photocopy of a check made out to the town of Walpole Tree Gift Fund for $15,000, which were things that were discussed about providing for compensation for granting a variance, a waiver, excuse me, for the cul-de-sac length. Other than that, we haven't submitted any other additional information. Pretty much it.
All right. Read the comments from the other boards. From Board of Health, April 19th. At the April 17th meeting, they voted to reiterate comments made. They opposed new construction with a 100-foot buffer zone, and the sidewalks extend around the entire cul-de-sac. And the board appreciates the streetlights added. 4 would be better for lighting for subdivision, but 3 indicate adequate, and all trash and recycle will need to be placed on the main road. Concom, the application is the applicant is before the commission for this project on June 13th, and there are no further comments at this time. So that one from Sewer and Water is off until June 11th, therefore they won't have any comments at this time. And let's see, the last 2 are Tim's and Maggie's, I'll hold those. And from Deputy Fire Chief Paul Barry, May 7th. Fire Chief has reviewed the revised plans and comments for the above-mentioned subdivision, and our comments are remain consistent as previously submitted to the board. We are not in favor of the request to allow a dead end to exceed the 750. If for some reason we are unable to travel a dead-end roadway, our capability to respond to an emergency is limited. A blocked roadway that extends beyond 750 will only exacerbate the problem. With a blocked roadway, our limited on-staff study would be presented with logistical challenges, providing that the appropriate equipment to the scene of the emergency. We find the fire hydrant acceptable. We are in favor of the loop water main. We have concerns with the proposed fire lane. Year-round maintenance is a concern. We currently have fire lanes in the town not maintained or inaccessible to fire apparatus, who would be responsible for maintaining the fire lane. Regarding using Baccaria as emergency, in his March 20th, 2007 comments, Deputy Chief Michael Larissy said, are there plans in the near future to develop the remaining 19 acres? If so, the fire department would suggest request a waiver from section 5.6 be denied. Access from Baccaria, or however we pronounce it, lane, which is only reported 12 feet wide, should require changes to current layout. The width should be increased from the current width to 20 feet. No parking signs would need to be installed and enforced. Both suggestions would be more likely present hardships to current owners. If the current plans are approved, the proposed geogrid grass emergency access drive would need to be designed to support the imposed loads of our fire apparatus equipment. Okay? Maggie?
Yep. None of these are new, it's just what's left over. Street name needs to be approved. It's recommended, although I suppose it's not required because it has to happen anyway, condition of approval regarding contacting the postmaster for where mailboxes are gonna go, because the post office does not put mailboxes in individual lots anymore. Unless there's some special deal that's worked out, they do gang mailboxes now, that's what the postmaster told me, but it's up to the post, you know, it's something that'll have to be taken care of, whether it's an approval, a condition or not. We need conveyance of easements and utilities and O&M documents. If the water main, which is shown coming between lots 9 and 10 now, is the final way that it's going to be, the plan should include a complete construction plan and profile of the water main, and where it comes through, between lots 9, 10, and out into the other driveway with the loop on it down to East Street. I checked with the superintendent of the water and sewer department this morning, he hasn't gotten back to me yet. When that water main goes off of the future public way of Nichols Pond Lane, he's still looking into whether they want that to be public or private. You need to verify that with him only, I tried to do it this morning, he just hasn't gotten back to me, only because there'll be additional requirements as to what you might have to do. Let me see, in the easement plan, if we go with the, even if it is public or private, the easement plan, you need to trace the easement, I mean, you've got it labeled as an easement between 9 and 10, and coming across, but when it comes into the driveway, it needs to be, depending on what the if that's gonna stay just a driveway now, if it's not gonna be a future subdivision, that's gonna be a public way, there needs to be an easement, the easement needs to be all the way carried down to East Street, depending on what you end up doing.
That portion's already existing right away, so we would just give you an easement over that right away.
But it needs to be shown on a plan somewhere, that's what I'm saying.
It's on there, it's just, it's not labeled as easement, it's
So then
it's
it
a
needs to
right
be.
away.
That's fine, that'll work. And just as far as, the one thing we talked about with the drain, with the issue of home recharge systems making the
Right.
subdivision drain work, how are we gonna deal with the ones that don't have an order of condition? Because with the ones with an order of conditions with coming, they will be, there's a way to, legally require them to be built, but there's a few that you won't have an order of conditions. How do we make that happen? You would discuss somehow doing it within the Form F, but I don't know if that can possibly be.
Yeah, we'll ask council on that, if that's possible.
Okay.
We talked about that with you, not with council.
Right,
but with you.
and the thing is if it can't be, then there's no way to ensure, then the subdivision drainage doesn't work. If there's no way to require it, so before the planning board votes on that, we need to know what they're going to do. Because you may have to revise the subdivision drainage.
Well, we would still keep if we can't put in the Form F, we're gonna still go forward with the recharge systems for the house.
That's correct, but the problem is the planning board, it's what make, those recharge systems, and I understand what you're saying, are what make your subdivision drainage work. But the problem is if the planning board has no jurisdiction over what is done on the lots, they can't require those to be put in, so if somebody.
I get that, but technically, they're only approving the roadway right now. They're not even approving the houses.
Correct, but what's making your subdivision drainage work, your roadway drainage work, is those recharge systems.
But the recharge systems are for the house, that's not being approved by the
Correct,
board.
but we're running around in a circle here.
No, but I
You have to
mean,
have them to
but
make
you're
the
asking me,
subdivision.
but you're asking the board not to make a decision based on
No, no,
something
no,
we
no,
designed
that's
for
not
the
what I'm
house.
saying.
That's what you said in your first, you were
No.
saying that. If they're gonna make a decision, we have to have that answered, or they can't make a decision, or we have to revise the
Either-
drainage.
We either
Yeah.
have to, we either have to have a way to have the planning board be able to require them, say within the Form F, or you have to revise the subdivision drainage.
I don't agree with that.
Well,
I
then your
disagree.
subdivision drainage doesn't work.
I disagree, but.
Well, then prove it on paper. That's the issue we've been having with these, is, the hard part is there's no way, I'm not saying that they're not going to do them, but we had, the very first one we did all those years ago with John Rhodes and Hague Estates, they were required to make the subdivision drainage work. We went back later on and checked, and the people hadn't put the damn things in. The problem is the planning board has jurisdiction over what happens on the roadway and utilities. We have a way to bond it and ensure that they're gonna be done. We have no way to ensure that I know of, to make those, to require them to be put in. If for whatever reason, the people don't wanna do them, I'm not saying they're going to, but I've seen it happen. You can't have it both ways. If you need them to make the subdivision drainage work, then it has to be something the planning board has some kind of control over. And if we can't put them in the Form F, if the Form F can't require them, or some other way, then you need to revise, maybe the underground recharge systems that you're putting in have to be bigger. If you don't need them to make the subdivision drainage work, then they shouldn't be there.
I mean, it's a highly recommended practice under the stormwater management guidelines.
I don't disagree with you there,
You know,
but the problem is there's no
they're
way to
pushing,
require them.
everybody's pushing the issue of using clean runoff to
Yep,
put back in the ground so it
absolutely.
doesn't have to be treated. All we're doing is following the guidelines.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, to tell me now I can't do it and you want me to do something different doesn't make sense.
We've said this from day one.
It's-
This is a comment I have had. I have to tell you, I beg to differ. I've had that comment since day one.
And you haven't required on any previous subdivisions. And they all do
I
recharge
don't,
for
well,
the roof.
I'm not gonna worry about other subdivisions. Right now, we're trying to move forward with correct a way of doing it. And the answer to the other ones, the other one I can think of is Echo Estates. It's, Concom requires, there's the Concom element, just like there are for those. Can they be you had said something about asking council about the
I'm gonna
Form F.
ask council if they can put something in the Form F that talks about them, absolutely.
Then why can't we do that before you vote? That's all I'm asking.
Well, you know, council?
I'm gonna ask them, but what if it can't be done? I'm not gonna change the design.
Then
It
your
needs to-
subdivision
the- the-
drainage
the-
doesn't work.
Well, the design meets the standards, and it meets your regulations. It's not required under the subdivision regs that I put in a legal document for regulating infiltration from a roof runoff system. It's not in your regs. So the plan conforms to the subdivision rules and regs. It
I'm
conforms.
not asking for a legal document. What I'm asking for.
You're asking for some mechanisms to make sure they get installed. Well, they're on the plan, they're gonna be in the decision, and that's all I can do. If I can't get it in the Form F, I can't get it in the Form F.
But the problem is this board has no way, you could say, we're gonna.
I'm not
put-"
asking the board to
No, I
vote on
know.
something that doesn't conform to the regulations.
But you're asking them to rule on something that they don't have any jurisdiction on ruling. That's what you're asking.
Simple question. The drainage that's in the road will take all the runoff. Will it?
Not from the roof runoff, no.
Forget the roof. I don't care about the roof.
You
The
have
roof
to
is a whole.
balance, you have to balance pre and post development rates and volumes, and in order to
I
do that,
understand.
he's using the roof runoff systems.
It takes all the runoff except for the roofs from the houses.
Oh, so you've taken, rather than calculate in your subdivision drainage, you're narrowing that down so that it has to come off the roof, correct?
All the roofs are recharged separately.
He can't get enough, he can't get enough benefit from just recharging the rain,
Let me ask you,
the
I'll put it
street.
another way. Go
To
back
make
to
it
the
better.
old days. Were you supposed to, when you design these, supposed to take in consideration the roof runoff in your street design, pre and
It's, there's a
post?
certain amount of impervious cover that's figured in, and but in order to balance, the easiest way in order to balance your pre and post development rates of runoff, you basically have to calculate what you have before and what you have after, and the problem is, what he's got after, he can't balance unless he takes that contributory part from the roof runoff. DEP classifies as a clean runoff. They want that to be recharged. My only problem is, if you have a homeowner who decides, I don't want a pit in my backyard, they won't put it. And
Okay.
this board has no way to require that.
What did we do on North Street?
North Street where?
For
Which one?
Jervis? The one, like, a month ago.
Don't remember. I would
Roof
have to-
recharge.
Yeah.
Were those on the plans?
Yep.
And was it an issue?
It's the same issue. It's the same issue. I just didn't bring it
think-
up.
I think
It's
there
been
was
the
only,
same issue.
I think two of
So
the,
because, so
half of the
basically-
houses were going to conservation.
Yeah.
You did it on Winter Street with the subdivision Walsh has just finished. We did it on Summer Street.
Right.
You do it on every project.
At some point, we have to start and do it right. If this board doesn't wanna if this board doesn't wanna require it, then we are basically just because we haven't done something complete up until this point, doesn't mean we don't move forward and do it correctly.
Thought we
If-
don't do stormwater management.
Who doesn't do
We
stormwater
don't.
management?
Isn't that the whole separate group?
It's,
No, it's in your
it's
subdivision
part of your
regs.
design
I
of
know,
your
but
stormwater, it's part of your,
it goes to conservation.
it's part of the
doesn't it?
design of your stormwater system.
Yeah, but isn't that a whole separate thing going through land use?
It can be if there's wetlands involved, but you could have a subdivision that has no wetlands, so there's no Concom.
Like
Correct.
Echo,
No, there was Concom on Echo,
it was?
down back there was,
Okay.
so. All I'm asking is that they check on the form, check on whether it can be part of the format, or if there's any other mechanism. If there's no other mechanism, then we're getting to the point where we have to just rely on their goodwill. And if that's what we have to do, that's what we have to do. But there's no reason not to at least try to make it right.
Okay. All set?
Yep.
Tim?
I had 2 new comments, Mr. Chairman. Robert, did I give you a copy of these? No. Note number 2, you state that lot A2 is to be conveyed to an abutting landowner. That parcel abuts land owned by 4 different owners.
Possible. Where's A2? Which one's that?
I don't have an enlarged plan from me. And then I had also a question on the reserve strip to the rear of lots 13 and 14. What is the intent of that, please?
What parcel was the first question?
Lot A2, you have, it's gonna be conveyed to an abutting landowner, but the parcel abuts land owned by 4 different owners.
It'll be about, it'll go to the Lewis Park Trust landowner. We can stipulate that.
Then the reserve strip at the rear of lots 13 and 14. The little strip,
It's right behind lot 13 and 14.
That went to the house on David, where it says NF David L. Wakefield. That's not a reserve strip. That was in an A&R plan deed to that, to go into that lot.
So
to
this
make it
plan just doesn't
30,000
reflect
square
the
feet.
A and R
Is it
then.
the little strip?
That's that little bitty piece right there.
When'd you
I
do
know we
that?
talked
Two-
about it, that
When we
little
did
bit.
an A&R for these lots up front, that strip was on it to make that lot conform to 30,000 square feet. That's an existing house lot with a house on it.
So then for,
It's
so then,
under
to-
30,000.
So that line really doesn't have to be there then.
so you can get rid of that,
That line
okay, so you can get rid of that then. Rob, how much of these lots are registered land?
None of them on this side.
Oh, good, okay.
It's only the castle side.
Oh, okay, so that little strip we just talked about, is that
That's
registered?
non-registered.
Okay, so that when.
But the piece, that'll always show up as a separate piece because the other piece is
the-
registered.
Okay, so that's probably why it's separate. I'm just thinking about changing the assessors maps at some point when these all come back, but the land court plans don't come back, that's where it gets confusing.
And for the record, I don't have a big problem with the length of that dead end.
Thank you.
All right. All right. Almost a year now. Let's address the 1,000-pound gorilla in the room. And let's
Have
talk.
at it.
Have at it, because this is it.
This is it.
Okay, you got a waiver request. We have a deputy fire chief that doesn't want it. But he also talked about having a fire access. So the way I read that is, you're just gonna end it, if you're just gonna end it, he ain't in favor, but if you're gonna do it, then you'd have to improve your access. So, with that being said, what are we gonna do?
Looking for a waiver for a dead-end street to 1,020 feet.
So whatever the fire chief, deputy chief said, you're not even gonna entertain the fire access.
We proposed
Okay.
the fire access, and he wrote comments that he wasn't interested in it, is from what I'm reading.
Well, he had concerns, but he didn't say no.
Well, he said Barakaya had to be upgraded to a, 24-foot road or
No, he said
20-foot
20,
20-foot road, and
which can be done.
it could be, but that's not the intent. We would prefer to do the waiver to the 1020 and not do any work on Barakaya.
You would prefer that, okay.
That's what we would prefer.
All right, so we're all set. You're going the whole route, you're not doing anything else, so now it's time to vote the waiver. Okay.
David? For that? You wanna speak on that? You're all good. I mean, I think we've heard all the arguments, right?
Yeah, I mean, we just gotta, this position stated, you want all the way up, no improvements there, and whatever the fire department says, that's fine, but we don't care. Yep.
David Wakefield, Lewis Park Trust. I think you're right, you're at the point now, you probably need to go ahead. As far as, we've met with the neighbors, we've tried to make agreements with the neighbors, we've tried to alleviate their concerns, we've tried to work with everybody in the area. All I can say to you is that this would be a final solution for the property. If we were granted the waiver, then that would in fact, the property would be developed to that extent. Barrackaya would be deeded to the neighbors, and the water loop would go through the other part of the property, so that Barrackaya Lane would not be disturbed at all by this developer. So that's why we proposed it at this. It would be a final solution to the situation. We wouldn't have to revisit this again. And whatever the board chooses, I thank you for your time.
Okay. All right, well, we could well discuss this. So we're ready to vote on this waiver, because that's the key to this. If not, we can spin it forever, so.
I'd like to make some comments if we're gonna go straight to a vote on the waiver.
Well, you can make them during, after, you can have comments during. Make them now.
Well, no, it's okay. If you wanna do it just before we vote, I'd like to.
Doesn't matter, you can do them now.
All right. I keep going back to the same argument that I've had in my viewpoint of this, and I just want to set a little bit of background just for everybody to remember that I'm not overly in favor of any developer or landowner that wants to do something out of the ordinary or looking for a waiver that essentially is forcing a board to make a decision based on putting neighbors and abutters at risk or grant the waiver. So I want to say that up front because it's a tough decision, but the research that I did based on this situation in and of itself brings me back to the decision that I believed I always had, which was we have to choose which one is more important to us and which one poses the most risk, not only to the town, but then to the residents that are involved. The reason I'm saying that is I believe that Deputy Chief Barry and the fire department as a whole have put together these recommendations and these minimums, whether it be for enough turnaround space, cul-de-sac and dead end length for certain reasons, and a host of other recommendations and guidelines that they would like to go by. And I absolutely guarantee that they do this for the betterment of Walpole's public safety, that they're trying to do their jobs, and everyone has a job to do. And the police department would never get involved in how long a cul-de-sac should be or how much turnaround room we need for a ladder truck. Nor would the fire department get involved in some of the public safety issues that the police have to deal with. Having said all of that, it is per the fire marshal's office, which I've read many appeals that went to that office based on recommendations from local fire departments, where the developer did not agree. Attorneys have filed appeals with the state fire marshal's office, and the appellate division of the state fire marshal's office has always said, while we agree with recommendations that are in place for public safety, we have no jurisdiction. The ultimate jurisdiction on making these types of decisions falls to the planning board of that town. And I read 4 or 5 different case files that ended with the same thing. No ruling, because no jurisdiction. It's up to the planning board. And quite frankly, it's our job to make these tough decisions So, having said that, here's my thoughts. Deputy Chief Barry, I would never expect him to change his recommendations. He shouldn't. It's a department-wide recommendation and guideline, and he should stick by it because his job is public safety. After taking into consideration every party involved, and I'm not in love with the way Mr. Wakefield has essentially put a gun to the heads of this board, or to the backs of the people on Barracuda in the beginning, it still leaves us with a decision. It's our job to take into consideration everything and compare it to the safety issues that the fire chief has put in place. The history is that there are at least a dozen properties, streets in Walpole that are longer than 750. That doesn't necessarily become a precedent because 70 years ago, doctors said it was safe to smoke. We learn over time with experience that certain things might not be safe, and we adjust guidelines. So that's not the basis of my argument. The basis of my argument is our job is to protect the other people involved in this while maintaining the rights of the developer and what his options will be if we don't grant the waiver. And I'm not prepared, and I'm hoping to get into the mindset of my other board members here and understand that 200 and some odd extra feet is still under some of the roads in Walpole that are cul-de-sacs, but we need to be strong enough as a board to vote not in opposition to the fire chief's guideline, but to take in all of the facts that we have and try to make a right decision for the town of Walpole while respecting the fire chief's recommendations. I would say that we ought to grant the waiver because it's the best thing for this particular project. The chief has said many times, Deputy Chief has said many times that while he understands that this is a perfect storm situation, the recommendation is still 750 feet, but he would support any decision that the planning board makes in this ruling. So I'm pleading with the rest of the members up here to reconsider how you felt in the past about this and take in the entire scope of this project and what it means to the neighbors and what it means to the landscape, and vote, granted because we have a gun to our head practically, to grant this waiver and allow this to move forward. That's all I have.
Okay. Anybody else want to speak before I make the motion?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You go ahead.
So, I happen to, sorry, I'm losing my voice. I happen to live on a street that I think is over the 750. I live on the very end of a cul-de-sac. I think Joe looked it up once. It's, I don't know what it is exactly, over 1,000. My mother-in-law lives with us. She is disabled, in a wheelchair, on a ventilator, requires, you know, always electricity or oxygen or other life-saving measures. And I feel fully confident in the town of Walpole and emergency personnel in this town to make it to our house should there be an emergency. Our home does have sprinklers, which I guess was a condition of of the construction, so I don't have that to worry about. But as the fire chief mentioned, it's not just fire; it could be, you know, medical emergency, other emergency. And I've thought a lot about the residents and their pleas to us to not open up the possibility of going through Barracuda. And I do understand that, and I think at this time I would be in favor of granting the waiver. Like Mark said, it's no disrespect to the deputy fire chief. he's got the recommendation. That's his regulation, that's what he puts out, but he has said to us that, the emergency personnel will deal with whatever is presented to them and, do it to the best of their ability. So, I wish that the applicant were more, what do I want to say, more amenable to certain conditions, but I guess if I had to choose, in the interest of the other residents, I would choose to grant it.
Well, the last time you were here, I think I outlined something like 13 conditions. And for the most part, you've met just about all of them, with the exception of one or two, including this big one, which would have persuaded me to vote in favor of the waiver. I don't think there's a gun to my head. I have a high-level public safety manager employed by the town telling us numerous times that he is not in favor of this waiver. And he stipulates the reasons. And if you go back to the time when Sarah's Street was given the waiver, Ken Erickson, then fire chief, even elaborated more why the street should not be beyond the certain required dead end. So I think the fire department is pretty adamant about this. And I don't think that there is any opportunity to go through Barakaya, because frankly, the definitive subdivision decision involving Barakaya specifically says that no petition shall ever be made to the town of Walpole seeking to change the status of said Barakaya Lane from that of a private way, and it shall remain a private road in perpetuity, and is not intended to be now or at any time in the future a public way. So, to me, the only way that if you did not want to sprinkle some of these houses and go with this plan, to me, the only other way is to loop the road, so it comes around behind or in front of the castle and comes out on East Street. So you do have another option that doesn't, it seems to me, that doesn't involve Barakaya and satisfies the position of the deputy fire chief. So if I had a vote right now, based on what I know, I would vote against the waiver.
Joe, can I respond to that? And I respect your opinion. You're very thorough, as usual, and that's something that this board appreciates. Well, I appreciate anyway. I'm not sure the public versus private road on Barakaya would necessarily prevent Mr. Wakefield from making a emergency access cut-through. I don't think that makes it a public road. I think that he's just using a private road to access from the other side over a not passable public access route, which will be probably gated or something, unless they need it. So I'm not sure, I don't want to get lulled into a false sense of security thinking that Mr. Wakefield cannot still use that as a cut-through. You know what I mean? And if you have any clarification on that, then I'm certainly willing to listen to it, but I'm not prepared to trust that he can't do it.
Okay, I'm also taking into consideration a past comment made by Maggie, which indicated that if they were to go through Barakaya, correct me if I'm wrong, that they would need permission to be on private property, the private property that is there already. Now, I don't know if that was just for the water mains
or if it pertained to the roadway as well.
Well, Mr. Wakefield, you'd have to ask Mr. Wakefield, but I understand just from his conversations that he has the ability to allow that whether he wants to or thinks it may not be big enough, it may have to be approved because it was only built, as I understand, a 12-foot wide roadway to accommodate those 2 single-family homes, and I think the fire department would need something wider.
And maintain.
Right.
Well, knowing what I know now, if I had to vote and somebody showed me a plan that was going through Barakaya, I would vote no. Because I know that there is another option available.
I'm not, and correct me if I'm wrong, I really don't know the answer to this. Would we have any jurisdiction on approving that cut through if it's his land? It's to a private road that, I mean, I'm not sure that we would have jurisdiction over saying yay or nay on that, which is what worries me. I think that he'd be able to do it without our approval. And you know, there's other ramifications down the road that are every bit as plausible as the road being blocked for public safety access in the first third of the road, because that's what we're talking about. It would have to be blocked near the end of the street for the 750 to even be relevant. Let's say the residents of Barakaya happen to be having a 4th of July party. And all of a sudden, no one can get through on East Street, so they go ripping around to Barakaya, and there's 20 cars in the parking lot. Now, once again, they have to change their lives and say, no, everybody park on Lafayette because we can't block this street, just in case something that's never happened happens. And that's my problem with it. We are putting the burden of public safety on the residents of Barakaya unnecessarily. In terms of plausibility of a problem. Deputy Chief says in at least 2 of his remarks to us that he understands that this is a perfect storm. Now, turning away on this and making this type of a decision against the guideline of the Deputy Fire Chief, I'll be honest, only is plausible and something that I would be willing to do unless I'm having a heart attack and somebody blocked the end of my road. Then I'm gonna be out of my mind mad because no one could get up the street. But we have to make a decision based on the information that we have.
Well, the bottom line for me is I gave everybody, the applicant, an opportunity to get this waiver at the last hearing. And I don't see, you know, knowing that it had been done before, and, you know, Sarah is a recipient of those fire sprinklers and has stated before that she feels extremely safe and thought they were great to have. Knowing that that was a possibility, and the fact that you had underground utilities, that you had no trees that would fall within the, into the street on either side, all of these minor conditions couldn't have been agreed upon. And that would have persuaded me to vote yes for the waiver. I would have said yes. But they're so minor, and maybe they're not within our jurisdiction, but they seem to have been done before, okay? And they got the waiver before. So here we are, you know, with just a little more to give, and the waiver would be granted, and this whole thing would be gone, but we're not getting there. So for me, I'm going back to the Deputy Fire Chief and his position, and he said it many times already, you know, we could pull out every time he is asked, he said no to the waiver.
Well, that's because the 750 is the best practices guideline that the fire department has put in place, and I respect that. He shouldn't change his view on it because that's what we're here for. We're the appeal, essentially the state fire marshal's office say the planning board is the appellate route that you must go if you want to go against this.
Well, I haven't read that, but.
Can
I have
make
it
a comment,
actually.
Mr. Chairman?
I have
What?
it.
Can I make one comment?
No, we're up here deliberating. I'm getting the gorilla out of the room tonight, one way or
I
another.
just wanted to comment to Joe's comment.
No.
Because I
It's
think
odd-
we
it-
agreed on all of them except for the sprinklers.
Right.
Joe.
And I think the trees, we didn't comment on the
Well, we
street trees.
agreed to all of them but the one.
Yeah.
We can sit here and debate little things.
No, I'm just
We're
saying.
just gonna,
My turn.
yes.
I'm not opposed to the development as a whole. I just am not willing to go against blatant safety concerns that have been repeatedly discussed. To look at the past and say we have other dead ends that are longer, it doesn't work for me. We should learn from the past. We should grow and move forward. Sure, we might not have had a problem here, but there've been problems other places. That's why it's in the rules and the law. I feel badly for the neighbors. I feel they are almost being used like hostages against us to force us to vote a certain way. I am in no way or at any point have I supported the connection to Beccaria. I just think it's wrong. I feel there are other options. I feel the options have been beat to death. We've gone over them and gone over them and gone over them. You know, the fire road doesn't have to go through Beccaria. There is plenty of land there. It can go a different route. The sprinklers were offered and re-offered. And you know, I know this isn't something you at all want to consider, but you know, if it was so dire, you could build a shorter street. So I don't feel that there's no way I'm willing. I don't feel that this is our only option. I don't feel that we should cave to having the neighbors threatened against us. I feel bad for the neighbors. I think they've been put in a horrible position. And I'm just not willing to sacrifice the safety.
Okay. All right. What we have here is we had something that was proposed to be developed more than 10 years ago. One of them was, as you see with Beccaria, was supposed to connect. Now it's not gonna connect. We also had Nichols on there, and that got taken off. Because if it was on here and we're doing concurrently, we would have connected it. So what's basically happened is all our, we have a developer.
You're talking about Isaac's.
Isaac's, I'm sorry. So basically, all our options have been taken off the table by the developer. I mean, that's what it comes down to. He owns Beccaria as far as being private. What that means is you can't ask the town to come and build it. If you want to bring it forward, you spend all your money just like everybody does nowadays, you can do that. So he has the ability to do that. The issues, all of you sat here for time and time again. How about a sprinkler? No. How about a road connection? No. Everything we've offered has been no, 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 no. I want my extra 4 lots, that's it. And we've been put in the middle on it. We have something from the deputy fire chief that's been known since the very start of it. When he sends something, if you're not gonna listen to it, then we shouldn't be sending it to him. But he said, but he also gave an out, and that out isn't being pursued. So, do I think a fire road's the best way? No, but he was given an opening, but it appears that the developer doesn't want to take the opening. So, every time we've offered something, it's no, no, no. So what do you expect the vote to be? You know, you can't kill your parents and plead mercy on the court that you're an orphan, and that's kind of what we got here. So, you can tell with the waiver, nothing had been done, nothing has been offered, and all it is someone just wants to build those extra houses and don't pay any more for it. That's what it comes down to. If you look at it, it's maximizing. I'm not accusing you, Dave, but if you look at it, it's like I'm going for everything and not paying anything in return. So you heard mine. So make a motion to approve the waiver for the dead-end street. Do I have a second?
Second?
Second. Discussion. All those in favor of granting the waiver, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Aye.
Aye.
All right, so it fails, so no waiver. So you got regular plans for the shortened one?
Not at this time.
Are you gonna come back? Are you gonna refile? What are you gonna do?
We'll have to continue and kind of assess what our options are.
Okay, so you wanna continue it?
I would think that's probably best.
Yeah, you can continue it.
Could we do that?
Yeah. Would've been nice if we had them like we should, but we got that little tisk way back, and there's nothing in there, Rob. You can show me, I'll bring it down to Napa's and set you up for the night, but it's not there, okay? So, when?
When?
The earliest we got is July 19th. Is that enough time?
Sounds like a lot of time.
Well.
You have a 4-person board also.
All right, we need extension then, if you wanna keep this going.
Yeah.
Through July 31st?
4.
I'll make a motion to,
Joe,
grant extension?
Joe won't be here.
Okay. Well, that may make him happy.
Well, he's already voted the waiver, so.
All right, you wanna give it through, up until July 31st, is that what it is?
Yeah.
Okay, is that what it says, Kate? Through the end of July?
She's gonna write it in.
Okay, make a motion to grant up through July 31st, 2018. Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, and we'll set it for July 19th at 7:35.
You all set?
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
It's a bad way to end the night.
Do you wanna put all the tough ones on first? Because you never get them up.
Rob,
Done?
the stormwater inspection report, you may wanna take, Union Square Village, Burns Ave off of the, project name.
Oh, I don't wanna talk about it because I'll be subpoenaed by Wall Street Development on doing something down there, even though he had trucks going up and down my driveway, which he's gonna get noticed on, that ripped the hell out of my driveway. Will
Oh,
you
yeah.
direct them to do that, Rob?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Can you say it under oath?
I'm not part of any of that work going on there.
There's
Call the LSP, I'm not part of that.
It wasn't even LSP, unless Hugo's an LSP. Those are the guys there.
This also says Holliston Board.
Oh, come on, really?
I knew it, and I can't say it, so.
We're still live.
Yeah, well, this is referring to Holliston Planning Board.
So you
You don't wanna sign that?
No?
You just had the Holliston Planning Board turn down your waiver.
So we get a revote?
No.
We'll get one from Holliston. So we're all set? Okay, make a motion to adjourn?
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.